You're listening to Well, I Laughed, part 2 of Within These Walls, Crowded Hours.
Anyway.
Okay, are we ready to
Yeah, we're ready to record now.
I need to see if there's anything actually left in my system that I need to get out. Then I'm going to say this.
Okay.
I'm going to give you space to react.
Okay.
And then I'm going to jump us in with, hey, how's it going?
Okay.
I'm Grant. That's my, we're laughing. Just get it out of your system now.
And then cut everything that comes after until we get into
Good.
it.
I'm just kind of always producing content. I came in
Yes.
a bright light today. Hi.
Hey,
How's it going?
it's going.
You have a good time?
No.
So I'm Grant. That's Maya.
Hey,
And we're laughing.
sometimes.
We've been laughing.
Yeah.
I walked in today in a great mood.
Which is shocking.
Let's see how much Maya knows about my life right now. Hop quiz.
Oh, no.
Why am I in such a great mood today?
Today specifically?
Today
or
specifically.
this season of life?
I mean, that's a tough question because I'm always in a great mood in every season of my life.
You're in a particularly good mood because school's almost out.
That's it. School
Okay.
is out.
Oh, it is
I don't
as
have
of today?
any more children to deal with.
I did not know that.
Correct. Yeah.
I kept waiting for it because I know the seniors graduated last week, and I was
Yes.
like, he's got to be in that final stretch. But
Well, it's like I technically still have to go to school tomorrow, but all those teachers that teach actual classes have like papers to grade. Meanwhile, I'm just like, let's take down all these funny posters and pictures students drew of me. Oh, it's 8:05 and I'm done now.
you don't have any like PD days after?
So Monday is like whatever we're calling that. And then
Yeah.
it's kind of like part 2 on Monday. So that's tomorrow. So Friday and Monday. And then
Jesus.
Tuesday, and this is cool about the school I work at, there's like the retirement banquet party, celebration, recognition.
Yeah.
Very cool to work at a school where people have been working as teachers for their entire career and are like, this was my last year, like so great to like,
Yeah.
it's just cool to be in that way.
Yeah.
Anyways, turns out that party ends with a roast and then a couple of teacher socials.
Incredible.
No, I know it. What's even better is on today's Thursday. Let's go ahead and backtrack this. I did not work on Monday. Yesterday,
Dude, it's been the longest week of my fucking life.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, so yesterday, I'm on the second floor, a floor I never go to. I stay in my little hovel in the corner.
Yeah, his classroom is on the first floor. I too, one or two times that we've judged at your school, I have gotten immediately so lost.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, yeah.
I have a bathroom across the hallway from me, a private single-use bathroom, and a Keurig in my classroom.
Single-use bathroom is not the way to say that. Single use, like
Yeah,
you just
like a
throw it
cigarette.
away after one use.
You should see how the kids treat it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm on the second floor. I'm talking to some people and I'm like, oh, and I've heard about like this thing and a roast or whatever. Like, what's it like? And they're talking about it. And then one of the teachers I'm talking to goes, yeah, and it's really good at, oh my God, that's in 6 days, isn't it? And I go, yeah, if it's on Tuesday. He goes, I need to start writing that. Oh my God, I had completely forgotten. Grant, thank you for this conversation. And I was like, yeah, you're welcome, of course.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Right.
But also, can you tell me details?
Right, what am I walking into?
Yeah, you also gave me nothing.
Yeah. So that's why I'm in such a great mood. Summer kind of started right now.
I love that for you.
Thanks.
We got a bunch of new people on site, which is both good because there's been a lot of people that have been like overloaded and like so overloaded that they've been in meetings all day, but also simultaneously somehow are supposed to be in the plant supervising things. And that's not how that works. So we got some new people around, which is good for that reason and bad for my social anxiety. And now the fact that our construction trailer is just so full of people all the time. And I'm like, please get out of my safe space and stop touching my Costco snacks. I know they're yours by like right, but if anyone touches those s'more clusters, I swear
bought this
to God.
with the company credit card for me.
I didn't even buy it. Somebody else bought it.
Good.
One of our coworkers who does most of the Costco runs, I was like talking about how good these like it's like s'mores brittle and like clusters. Yeah. Oh my God, they're so good. And I was like, someone needs to eat those because otherwise they're gonna be gone because I'm gonna eat them all. And he's like, he has like an older fatherly energy, and he was like, I got some of these for you.
That's so funny.
And I was like,
he's trying to win you over.
Well, he already has. I love him. He's great. But I was like, God fucking damn it.
It's so funny to me because they don't know, but I know that you're actually fighting a war on multiple fronts right now.
Yes, I am.
Because you have snacks.
Yes.
And that's an issue.
That's an issue.
And you have all these new people. That's an issue. But the real driving issue, your Western front, so to speak. And I was going to work a World War I reference into it. I don't know why you didn't think I would.
Is it actually a westward facing too? Hold on.
Does it get sun in the afternoon?
It does, but I think it's maybe north or south. It's south. It's south facing.
Okay. Well, it looks like trench warfare. And what is it that I'm describing, Maya?
Yeah, Sight is a muddy fucking disaster right now because we've been getting rain in Colorado, and if another fucking person turns to me and is like, well, we need it. Like, sure.
Listener, we do need it.
We do need it, but can it stop happening on my construction site so that everything and its brother is covered in mud? I came home from work a couple days ago, and my socks were muddy. I was like, I didn't take my boots off. How the fuck did that happen?
Oh, yeah, girl, get your tits out.
Literally.
Okay, so I love that, and please continue to feel like you have space to share these stories.
Grant's trying to get me to say
I was
something
talking
specific,
specifically about the
there's a
saddest.
chair.
No.
Okay.
You had your chance. No.
Okay.
Let me bring the people in, and then you can explain yourself. There is the saddest little office chair in the entire world that doesn't have all of its little wheels at the bottom of it and clearly can't like support its neck. You know what I mean when I'm talking about like an office chair. Yeah. So they've just leaned it up against the like portable that is their office.
Yeah.
And it's like so clearly where other people go to take like a cigarette smoke break. And it's vitally important to Maya that she has access to it.
This chair, So the first week, it was funny because I was like, who the fuck put this chair out there? And then Casey was like, I bet it's a smoking chair. And then I realized that one of my coworkers smokes. And I was like, that's probably right. But I've never seen him use the smoking chair. So one time when I was getting beer with some of my coworkers, I was like, and what's up with the fucking chair that's just like behind the trailer? And one of my like younger coworkers was like, oh, I put that there. Yeah, I go out there sometimes to think. And I'm like, he's like, it's missing a wheel, so we can't actually use it. But I just like leaned it up back there, and I was like, "Thank you for your service, because I will be using it now." And so I go out there sometimes when I get a little overstimulated, and I just go out there and sit. And it's nice because the chair gets nice and warm in the afternoon sun, so you can just you can have like a lizard moment. I take calls out there sometimes.
Maya tried to risk it today.
I tried to risk it.
Almost
It's
drowned
so
on her way
muddy.
there.
There's like literally a moat around this chair right now. And I just took a picture of it, and it's like literally surrounded by water right now. And we have like a little raised platform so we can walk between the trailers without having to get like super muddy if needed. But it doesn't go to my chair.
You know how my favorite / most devastating trope is the they deserved more time trope?
It's me in this fucking
Yours
chair.
is lovers who were separated. Because it's this in Hadestown.
I'm literally like, I just sat there. I was like so overwhelmed for a second because of reasons that I will talk about on Patreon. They need to be behind a paywall. So I just walked out there and was like, I would like to sit in my chair. And so I just kind of stood there for a while and was like, pretended to be on my phone, and people walked out. It was like maybe like 5 minutes, just enough for my like nervous system to calm down. But I was like, and then I took a picture and sent it to Grant, Lydia, and Jacob.
The way your relationship has evolved with this chair,
it's grown.
It's that sketch from within a Rick and Morty episode of Summer. Look at your dad, like keeping bees, like such a nerd. I mean, like, I guess it's interesting though. Like, I guess I wish my dad kept bees. And like it ends up with being like, how old is your dad again? I think I want to sleep with your dad. And Summer's like, oh, really? Have you grown really interested in him? That's you in this chair.
Yeah, I'm going to take this chair home with me when this portable gets taken down.
Hush now, my baby.
I'll find
and the chair is like, you are abducting me. Yeah. This is a crime.
Not when it happens on Vatican soil, which is...
Just please promise me to record the conversation you have with Casey when he sees you brought home this
I'm
horrific chair.
Gonna prop it up against the back of our house. It'll be my thinking chair still.
You got to be careful. Yard furniture creeps up on you in a way you're not comfortable with.
I know, because we have so much of it right now because we haven't made a patio yet.
Yeah. Jacob and Lydia took one of my armchairs when I moved.
You
that
think
just
you're
didn't
gonna need
fit
it
with my style anymore. Where they were just like, we have a truck, we'll dispose of this. But it was late that night, so Jacob took it home. Took it out of his truck so that way he could like drive around the truck
and it's still on the
and like put it on like the front deck or whatever. And then it rained a little, so he couldn't move it. But then it dried out, and he was like, "Oh, this is kind of nice to sit in." And then Lydia came home, and she goes, "What the hell is going on?" We have an armchair in the front yard. We are not that family.
That's so funny, especially that they have a covered front porch.
Right. No, I know. I think I actually moved up then to the covered front porch.
Okay. That's more acceptable, I guess. I don't know.
I have just a handful more stories before we get into the big one today. Both of them traffic related. We're going to start off with the anxiety producing one first. So I am not a person that experiences anxiety. It's something that many of you know and Maya hates about me.
Yeah. It's literally my least favorite fact.
I will at times when I'm driving into the city to go to school in the morning, come up to one of Denver's like big intersections. And it's like, you know, it's like in one block, you're going to get like 3 lights in a row. It's like bing, bang, boom. And it's, you come up and you're trying to like gauge it kind of like you're a penguin on an iceberg, like trying to figure out if you can go or not. Because the car in front of you actually hasn't fully like left the intersection yet.
Yeah.
But if you can get into it before the light turns yellow, like you're kind of good. And then you can kind of then keep going. But if you get into the intersection, the light turns yellow and then they don't move. And now you are just blocking the entire intersection.
You're the villain.
They take your license.
Yes.
So experienced that earlier this week. And I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Is this how Maya feels all the time?
Yes.
What do I do here? I'm just going to go.
My entire job is basically gridlock, so.
And then on the way here, was treated to one of the colorful bumper stickers of West Colfax. Tango, esposa, toxica. I have a toxic wife.
I am going to shoot the Pope. Like, what?
I love the Pope.
I am trying to become the Pope. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, you're now missing out on all the inside jokes.
A lot of references are hitting real quick.
I do. Speaking of, I took a picture like forever ago that I meant to show you, and then I never. First of all, just take a look at how many bumper stickers are on the back of this car.
I love this. This is the keep color real weird movement.
Yeah, just start reading them.
I get real close, and then like over steering wheel. I'm like, what is this? What does it say?
What is it saying?
I legitimately saw someone in like the lane next to me the other day roll down their window. I thought they were going to flip someone off because you just see a hand come out of a car window and you're like, oh, it's movement. And it's literally they were taking a picture and then I saw them bring it up to their face and zoom in. And I'm like, yes, queen, I know for a factor 35 and you cannot read that small text anymore. It's too relatable. Okay, am I to read these out loud?
Yeah, you can read any of them.
Mothman, take the wheel. Trigger warning now for self-harm. If you honk at me, I will kill myself. Like in crocheted lettering. My other ride is a deteriorating body of flesh and bones. Mental stability in this economy. And then it's just a frog that yells, be gay. If I... Their license plate number. No, I'm kidding. Their license plate frame. If I get a ticket, I hope it's to a concert. Don't honk at me. I'm sensitive.
So really don't honk at this
I went to the depths of despair and all I got was this stupid sense of humor. Get in, loser. We're healing from our trauma. I love my rotten, ungrateful cats. And then... Are you tired too, stranger? Here, take this warm cup of tea. And then the very last one. I like to think this was the first one that you saw.
That's probably it.
Let me merge. I'm on 3 anti-anxiety pills.
Yeah, this is absolutely the first one I saw.
That's beautiful. Listen, that's the importance of teaching your kids how to read. That's the importance of literacy in our society.
Yeah, how are you going to get the silly little jokes? That's all I'm going to say.
In other news, so I recently moved into a new home, and it's a townhouse.
Wait, what?
Just wanted to prime the pump. And it's really changed my life. And here's the thing. Yeah, it's one of those townhomes that is 3 floors. So there's steps. Get over it, loser. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like,
yeah, I lived in a townhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
We had to carry these sound panels up and down scary-ass stairs
the
for like
entire
a year and a half.
first year. Well, I was in socks, and your stairs were wooden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was always scared of falling down those stairs.
And then like a little sheepish knock to be like, hey, Casey, are you gaming? Or can we bring in 4 huge sound panels? We can. Bring them in!
Go, go, go!
Dum, 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 like up the steps.
Yes.
So, first floor, like laundry, garage, all the unsexy rooms.
Yeah.
Well, second
You do
floor.
live across the street from an elementary school.
Right.
So,
And that's why the first floor
floor
is
an unsexy floor.
Right, exactly.
Yep, I get it.
Second floor, big living room, kitchen, love it. Little dining space, love it. Half bath, so cool. Deck, wonderful. Who doesn't love it? Third floor, yes, a third floor. Oh my God. I lived in a 4-story walk up was actually 5 stories, but I was on the 4th floor, so the 5th one didn't exist. For like 5 years in Capitol Hill. Loved every second of it.
Yeah.
But you're a little high up. Like you're a little high up there. I had this huge window in front of my desk in my office on the 3rd floor. And today, when I was finishing the story, I haven't appreciated how good it is to spy on people when they go take their dogs for walks after work.
That's literally why I take my dog on a walk.
Yeah, and here's the really beautiful thing, and this is not sarcastic.
Yeah.
Living in a townhome means I have actually a lot of neighbors. Like there's a lot of units like on this like strip of land. A lot of them have dogs. A lot of them are men in their late 20s and early 30s.
Yep.
I could have been done with the story sooner is all I'm trying to say. Have you ever, timestamp this now, have you ever tried to spot a wedding ring on a hand 3 stories up?
Duh.
I love you.
Yes.
I want to take you away from all this. Me to
Whether
them
it's
from
for
my
me
desk.
or it's for a friend, or like I'm just trying to gauge what the fuck they're doing at this bar right now.
Listen, sometimes you're just staring at there like, yeah, I mean, like, sure, he's cute and I think he'd listen, but do I want to live with that dog? Like, there's been 4 other dogs on this block, right? Like, I can be picky.
You know what having a dog shows, though? Is
a lack of social life, an excuse to leave the bar at 11 p.m.?
Yes.
Not what I'm interested in. Actively
And
not what I'm
the
interested in.
ability to take care of something.
Right. And that's why I always rejoice when a person I'm talking to on the apps has cats.
You are also allergic to cats.
Yeah, I know. But like, you know, it means they can care for things, but they don't need to go let their cats out at 11 p.m. at night.
If they have a dog, they want love. If they have a cat, they just want company.
Why do you think that's on my list of things that I want and a person? Want love? I want $1 million.
Listener, get on the video. We need to make eye contact right now. Side eye with me, please. Shit, I was gonna say something, and then I forgot.
That's a shame. That was aggressive.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
Actively no. You have a dog and you're married. The 2 criteria I didn't want from my perch in my office, which is really what the story's all about.
You literally are essentially my husband in some... We've gone on, I think, more vacations.
And recently more dates.
Yeah.
I'm a husband to another woman. Like, this is my cross to bear. Have you seen...
A throuple, if you will.
Okay. No, because some of those...
Yep.
And
No, yeah, we're not gonna...
Right.
Yep.
And I can't even say
Get on the Patreon if you want.
No,
There's
for
an
reals,
episode
though.
titled The Thruple, I believe. I'm not actually sure.
Inspired from Hulu's The Bear.
Yes. Yeah.
No, life's been great. Obviously, I'm enjoying the summer. I'm looking forward to nationals for speech and debate. Looking forward. This is so nerdy, but like seeing my friends who coach in other states.
Oh, yeah.
Also seeing students who've been working really hard, like go for it all, and then just, you know,
Yep. Yes. Don't make scissors at me right now. That's traumatic.
I don't want to hear more, but I'm going to give you space to talk about whatever you want right now. Hi. Okay, so that was a fun little break from our students, and twisty-turny kind of way, it actually reminded me of a story from school.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So I'm on the first floor. I have those big, giant, gorgeous windows in my classroom, and I open them up to let the breeze in, right? The school's 100 years old. That's how you do it. But it also means sometimes my students treat it like a drive-through window, especially if from the outside they come in. So earlier this week, or maybe late last week, a kid comes up to the window. It's one of my queer female students, right? Who I have a really strong teacher-student relationship with. We've joked before, right? She comes up to my window and she goes, "Hey, I forgot my car keys in there. Can someone grab them for me?" And I see them like right next to my desk where she was eating lunch and had been yapping the entire time. And I grab them and I go, "Honestly, I'm surprised they're not carabined to the front of your pants right now." And 2 kids in my classroom were like, "Whoa, Mr. Thomas, that's kind of homophobic." And I just hold the carabiner, the keys are on. And I go, "But it's not wrong. It's not wrong." Here you go, could have tried safe. Anyways, I think I'm ready for the story.
Yeah, I'm ready for the story.
I'm really ready to go. Okay. Let me pop it up and let me open it up. Let me check one thing real quick. It's tough to see, but that's fine.
Tough to see, but that's fine.
Don't comment on anything right now.
Yeah. Grant is talking to some people.
You know who's going to hear that.
I just said you're talking to people. I don't know what you want from me.
A glass of wine and I'm a little embarrassed.
Good.
Okay. This is a fun one too because I don't have the title for it figured out yet.
Incredible.
But we'll get there.
I'll keep notes if I think of anything.
Okay. So to start off this story.
He's put the phone down, y'all.
All right. I just wanted to get the notes up.
Yeah.
But I was blessed to have 5 grandparents growing up. On my mom's side, I had my grandma and my grandpa. Mm-hmm. Those of you who've been listeners for a while, my grandma on my mom's side was the last living grandparent that I had who passed away in the spring. And that was a really special moment with our family.
Last year.
Yes. Oh, right, because it's the spring again. Oh, right. On my dad's side, I had my grandmother, I had my biological grandfather, and then my grandmother and biological grandfather actually got divorced like in the 70s, and then my grandmother got remarried.
Nice.
And that step grandpa was my grandpa in terms of like events and stuff. So of my 5 grandparents, the first one to actually pass was my grandmother on my dad's side.
Okay.
Grandma Donna, who was an absolute firecracker.
Yeah.
And I know I get a lot of my personality traits genetically from her.
Incredible.
Grandma Donna was an absolute shit kicker. She was super, super funny. I did eventually in my early 20s realize the reason why she kept all of her Diet Cokes warm in the laundry room was because the rum and ice were chilling them for her.
Oh. You know what?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
Like years after her passing, I am learning this about her, and I'm like,
incredible.
Cool. She had a pool. That was super awesome. She was just kind of sassy. She told it like it is, which, like, for instance, when I got braces in middle school, we had like a family event. It was always family events. Like I was fortunate, Norman Rockwell, but like always family events.
Norman Rockwell.
Thanks.
Was mine.
Yeah, it was. And my parents were like, "Hey, family, like Grant just got his braces, and like it'll be totally fine. But like, obviously his face is kind of swollen still from the braces, so just like be aware of that. And like, you don't need to mention anything about it." Which is like actually like so observant of my parents. Like, wish they had done that way more as a child. But whatever. Anyways, Grandma Donna walks in and right away goes, "Oh my God, your face! What's wrong with you?"
Oh my God.
And my parents were like, "Thanks, Donna."
That's literally the opposite of what we said to do, but that's fine.
My sister, as an act of defiance at 18, got like a tattoo and a piercing, which were both against my parents' rules. It's the early 2000s. You have to remember, they're not the cool vacationers you know them as today, right? They were clinging on to George W. Bush's middle class America, and they were like, "How dare you?" And it was a big deal. And Allie did it to piss him off, and mission successful.
Yeah.
Then like a week later, Grandma Donna takes my sister out to her birthday dinner, a tradition we'd had with Grandma Donna forever. She always brought me to Hoo Hot. And she looked at my sister and she goes, "I always wanted a rose tattoo on my ankle, but I was too much of a coward. And then I got too old. My skin was too saggy, so I couldn't do it anymore. So good for you, Allie." And then my sister came back in and she was like, "Grandma approves." And they were again like, "Donna."
Like, I'm obsessed.
She was hilarious. It is like, and it's a really interesting nature nurture because she passed when I was 12. And so like her actual influence on like the parts of my personality that are loudest today, negligible, right? Except it runs clearly in our blood. Yeah. My cousin on that side, I had 2 of them that lived in New York for much of like the late 90s and then up to like 2010. When Grandma was still alive, they would call her on their like way home from work, from like the bus or subway or whatever, and they would just gossip about life in New York and their friends or whatever. It was awesome.
I love that.
Grandma Donna's, at least my memory of her at age 12 was awesome. I think some of the older members of my family who understood this complicated woman have a complicated memory of her. Right. But it's all with love.
Right.
And all of this is to build up to my favorite quote that my grandmother ever said. Okay. Which was, "If you don't have anything nice to say, come sit next to me."
Shut the fuck up. That's on a t-shirt.
That's iconic.
That's incredible.
It's iconic. And for a long time, I just thought I got my wit from my grandmother.
Yes.
And turns out I got my plagiarism from my grandmother.
Oh, yeah.
Because today we are actually going to talk about the person who originally said that quote, which is not my grandmother. Today we are going to talk about the life and legend of one Miss Alice Roosevelt Longworth,
Ooh.
who originally was the one that said, "If you don't have anything nice to say, come sit next to me."
I love that it came from one of the like classic American families,
Yes.
you know, like
Oh, if you like classical American families, you're going to love today's episode.
incredible.
Okay, let's get into it.
Yes.
So, Alice Lee Roosevelt was born on February 12th, 1884. Her parents are Alice Hathaway Lee, like Caro
Oh,
or
Jesus,
whatever.
That's just so many names.
I s-
Anne was her first name.
Alice.
Alice. No,
Alice.
the mom.
Alice. Yep.
Oh,
They're both named
Dislike that.
Alice. Well, you're not going to be the only one who dislikes
Yeah.
it. It's 2 more bullet points away.
Oh.
It's fun. Like some of these are bullet points and then some of these I wrote out, but I'm like, some of them I'm like, I can just narrate this and you get lost in my
He's coming.
notes. Well, you've mentioned
he's being converted.
you've
2
men-
years in.
You've mentioned how lost you get sometimes when I can just freehand certain sections.
No, it's
So I'm
fine.
now just trying to bullet point the stuff that I'm freehanding.
I don't care.
Her mom's Alice Hathaway Lee Roosevelt Caraway Rockefeller blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Hathaway spent a whole hour, no relation to Anne Hathaway. It's a family
Damn
middle
it.
name. No, I spent a lot. Millennials, trust. I looked. Okay. And her father is one Theodore Roosevelt. So she's of those Roosevelts specifically.
Okay.
She's from what's called the Oyster Bay Roosevelts, which is good and not a working class neighborhood like it sounds like to me. It's actually so exclusive that she is by blood related to the famous Schuyler family of Hamilton fame. Yes, correct. So she's born into like old New York family.
I'm obsessed.
You're going to love every part about Alice's
I'm
story,
obsessed.
except this first part.
Oh, okay.
Trigger warning now for references to parental loss and grief.
Oh no.
I'm going to give you like a 5-second countdown, probably plus the initial stuff comes in like the next 10 seconds, and then there's a discussion for like the next minute or two. Okay. So she is born on April 12th, 1884.
Okay.
On, February 12th, 1884. On February 14th, 2 days old, in the morning, her grandmother,
Okay.
Teddy Roosevelt's mom, dies of typhoid.
Whew.
And in the afternoon, her mom dies of an undiagnosed kidney disease known as Bright's disease.
So she lost her grandmother and mother?
Correct.
Okay.
And for Teddy Roosevelt, he loses his
Wife
mom
and mom.
and wom. Wife and mom.
Wom and
Same.
wom.
Wom and wom.
Wom and-
Exactly.
wom
Norman
and
Momel. Mommy.
Mommy.
Loses them both on the same day.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt was like many people at the time, lifelong diarist, right?
Yeah.
And on that day, it's just the date and an X.
Oh.
This
That's
story
tough.
was really interesting because
Yeah.
Alice is like, haha, badass woman, gonna do what I want. Like, obviously, that's the quote that I
Yeah.
used to frame it. So, like,
Yeah.
there's not a jump scare halfway
No,
through
yeah.
this, right? But you start off her story actually with this really intimate discussion of grief. They named Alice Roosevelt Longworth, at the time, just Alice Roosevelt. They named her on the day she was born. And so 2 days later, when her mom,
Oh.
who shares her name, dies, her dad never says her name again. In fact,
What does he call her?
he calls her other things like Mousykins, and she would go by Mrs. L when she gets married, or she'd go by
Aw.
Lee when she was growing up, like her middle name, which she did also share with her mom. But her dad basically like never says Alice
Oh.
ever. He writes an autobiography and doesn't write Alice's name, like his wife's name, into the book. He refers to her as like my first wife,
Yeah.
but like never speaks of the grief because he's dealing both with the loss of his wife and his mom
Yeah.
and basically can't handle it.
Yeah. Is this before or after he's president?
So at this time, he's just an assemblyman in upstate New
Okay,
York.
okay.
In fact, he is like working on, I think, an anti-corruption bill when Alice is born and does not run home to his wife. And by the time he gets home, it's too late. Both his wife and his mother have passed.
That's
Correct.
wow.
So he's wrecked with guilt.
Yeah.
Um,
He could have been a much shittier person.
yeah. Yeah, well,
Okay.
I just listen.
He's the history
You
major.
need to
Trust him.
remember. You need to remember it's like 1880.
Oh, yeah, that's
and his
fair.
presidency is in the early 1900s. Like Teddy Roosevelt's reputation
Roosevelt,
is complicated.
In my head is don't blame me. My A-push history was great. I didn't do well.
It's all right.
Teddy Roosevelt feels like he happened in like the 50s. I don't know why. And I know. As soon as I think about a picture of him, I'm like, nope, he's always shown on a horse. Like,
Is there a chance you're thinking of Franklin Roosevelt?
yeah, for sure I am.
Okay, who was in the 40s, so that's
I know,
actually a lot
but
closer.
Roosevelts are Roosevelts, babe.
Right.
Yeah, they all are the same. So now I'm like
Gonna be
Teddy and
a
FDR.
lot of Roosevelts here in the next couple of minutes.
Good.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and you're wrong, just so you know. And also,
Yeah,
listener,
we literally
especially those of
just-
you who are a bit more tuned into nature, I mean, not nature, history, and know the
Jesus.
nature of Roosevelt's presidency and like kind of his legacy.
Grant's not
We're
only
going to
like,
talk about it.
by the way, you're wrong, and is also like, you're not even tuned into nature.
Sorry, because
Don't be friends with a gay guy.
part of Roosevelt's legacy is nature, but also like the nature of whatever. I'm going to read what I wrote down. This is why I don't do bullet points. The deaths of both his wife and mother rocks Teddy Roosevelt, who at the time was a state legislator in New York. Roosevelt loved these two women, and it breaks him. I kind of on record never speaks Alice Roosevelt's, his wife's, name out loud ever again, and comes up with other names for his now 2-day-old daughter, but basically never says her name either, which means she doesn't really go by her name. Like she has a really weird relationship with her first name for her entire life.
Fair.
Seeking like peace, like an attempt to like heal, Teddy Roosevelt does what we all do. Retires to his private ranch in North Dakota.
I wish. I fucking wish.
Like basically instantly. Like they call in at first the nurse, and then they call in Teddy Roosevelt's sister, who goes by the nickname like Bamie, Bamie.
Why is it a nickname?
Bamie.
Is she also named Alice?
No, I think she just has like a
Really
old lady
long
name.
Okay.
Anna. Her name's Anna.
But
She goes by Bamie.
Okay.
Bamie or Bye, Bye.
Oh, I like that.
So like nurse and Bamie take care of Alice her like first several years, like first 2 or 3 years of her life, because her dad, Teddy Roosevelt, has gone
grief residency.
back to North Dakota, where he has like kind of a ranch and he wants to be a rancher, and he's kind of obsessed with this idea of being like a rugged man, and that like all this like essentially affluence and privilege that he was born into. Men who are born into that are like weak and lack vision and lack courage and things like that.
Okay.
Which like it's tough because it's like you're hearing the song but you're only playing half the notes right, you know? You're like, you're right, you should feel weird about your privilege. Cosplaying as a rancher isn't how you're supposed
really
to
gonna
do
help
about it. It's also so funny too because Teddy Roosevelt in his own childhood was born with asthma and then essentially grows out of it. And Teddy Roosevelt at the time was like, that's because I was a super active kid. I woke up and realized I had asthma and didn't want to have asthma. So I like rode horses and like ran around. Right. That's 100% what medical doctors are like. He just grew out of it. It was childhood asthma.
That's what happened. You can have allergies that you grow out of.
His lungs developed.
Yeah.
It's like basic, but he was like, no, it was horses. I don't know what to tell you. So
I can say for a fact there is way too much dust that gets in your lungs.
It was horses.
Yeah.
So he has this like weird relationship with like the West, and he doesn't want to be this like soft person, and also his political career is kind of like and so he's kind of splitting time between New York and North Dakota as he like tries to balance all this.
Difference.
So I mean, he's not spending a lot of time parenting Alice, who has fortunately been whisked away to Aunt Bamie's house in Manhattan, which is just stocked full of books.
Incredible.
And will be Alice's safe haven for much of her adolescence.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed.
Oh, you really are. You really are. In fact, in 1884, when Alice is 2 years old, Teddy Roosevelt writes to his sister, Bamie, the one taking care of him, quote, "I hope Melsykins will be very cunning. I shall dearly love her." Because he hasn't like been around her.
Yeah, he doesn't know her.
Right. He's like, I'm sure I'm going to love her. I hope she grows up to be a smart, cunning woman. Can't wait to get to it. Because what's happening in 1884? He's about to get remarried. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So Alice forms a very strong relationship with her aunt, who clearly serves as a mother figure for Alice's entire life. And she has like a really complicated, oftentimes fraught, but also very defensive relationship with her father. And then weirdly toxic, but then maybe we understand each other, but also I hate you relationship with her stepmother.
Okay. I was about to make a enemies to lovers joke, and I was like, no, wait for the sentence to finish.
Yep. Who are these people?
Yeah.
What is their relationship to everybody? She seems to kind of be unclouded in her hate towards her stepmother,
Okay.
which is tough because this is armchair psychology now. Her father deserved the hands, not her stepmother.
Yeah, it feels like everyone's anxieties and sadness and anger is misplaced.
Because you know who else is going to also grieve the loss of Alice the rest of their life? Alice.
Mm-hmm.
Alice is going to grieve the loss of the mother she never knew the rest of her life.
Does Bammy have any other kids?
No.
Okay.
She gets married, but Bammy basically kind of serves as like a step-in mother to basically all of her siblings' kids at one point or another, including, this is a fun reveal, Eleanor Roosevelt.
What?
Yeah, Bammy is just raised like a whole generation of Roosevelts in upstate New York. And then when they were old enough, fled to London for like a decade.
Yeah, I would too.
I'm sorry if the story doesn't feel, listener, like it has like a direction yet. I'm kind of just trying to build the world right now and kind of give you a sense of parameters for who this person is. Theodore Roosevelt remarries when Alice is just 2 years old in the year 1886. He remarries a woman named Edith Kermit Carow, Carow. There is a saying that said the Roosevelts only talk to the Carows and the Carows only talk to God. Like they are elite in society. I know. Like, I mean, we wish,
yeah,
right?
That's the drama. That's the way I want to be referred to. I want to be remembered like that.
Well, here's the extra
not the
drama.
God reference, but
the reason why Teddy Roosevelt marries so quickly after the loss of his wife, despite the depths of his sadness and despair, is because him and Edith had long known each other. And many people actually thought they were going to get married. And then he was like, haha, surprise, I married Alice Hathaway Lee, Caraway, Broxton, Rockefeller, Knickerbocker, right? And so
it's gonna
like
get longer as the episode goes on.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to Bush and Clinton's eventually. Anheuser-Busch. They get married and everyone's like, oh, good. It finally happened. Sad that Alice girl had to pass away, but it finally happened. And like, that's good. We're excited about it. And what did I write? Yep. Great. So I covered it all. Amazing. So, everyone's happy for Teddy. They're like, this wife is going to pull you back from North Dakota. Also, a blizzard in 1887 killed all of his cows. So that also
oh my God!
That also pulled him back from North Dakota. Sorry.
Jesus Christ! I was not ready for the death of that many cows.
I should have trigger warning that a little bit.
That's so many cows.
The first 10 years of Alice's life is a really big time period for her dad.
Alice is like, I'm gonna read some books.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
He marries Edith in 1886. He's still kind of splitting time.
Right.
Winter comes around. Bad news for the ranch. And then he's like, well, I think I probably got what I needed out of this.
He's like thinking about rebuilding it, and he's like,
no, he's like, I'm fine. I'm going to move back to New York. I think I have a daughter out there and now a smoking hot wife that I've always also loved. And that becomes kind of the next chapter of Teddy's life, which means I want to call it like the next chapter in Alice's life. But unfortunately, like it's not, because this first chapter is she being neglected by her dad.
Yeah.
And this next chapter is her being neglected by her dad, and stepmom.
Oh, and he's actually kind of around.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
all still in New York, at least, right? Oh, okay.
Ambitious men never stand still, Here's the good news.
Don't.
Here's the thing about Alice, though, that's also like, I feel bad for her, obviously. She's experiencing the kind of tragedy no one should experience, especially at such an early age. She also basically like was born into the American royal family.
Yes. At least she did have someone who theoretically cared for her, that she knew cared for her.
Right. There are children born in the same city and county that Alice is living in, who, when they experience similar tragedies, the early loss of their parents, just die of starvation in the streets or experience unspeakable things. So, like, her grief is very special and very unique. And also, she lives in this almost
like you're,
fantasy
you're
world.
basically fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your aunt, who will soon run off to London, keeps teaching you how to read. And you're
Yeah.
a girl in 1884.
Yeah. You're
you
doing
know?
okay. Yeah. You just need a beast, I think.
So Alice doesn't seem to have a great relationship with her parents. And to make matters worse, Teddy and Edith almost instantly have 5 children.
Holy.
Yep. And so there's a lot of early pressures on Alice as a child that I think we now recognize as deeply formative and also probably
Yeah.
traumatizing.
Yeah.
And I have them listed out in bullet point form. Okay, so first trauma that kind of helps inform Alice's life.
Yeah.
And this next section we're going to call like 1886 to like 1898.
Okay.
Okay. So from when she's like 2 to when she's like 14.
Yeah.
So like when you are the most Play-Doh version of yourself possible.
Mm-hmm.
First, she has this mom, her biological mom,
Yeah.
who was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Everyone says she looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only thing anyone ever says about her mom. They're like,
Oof.
I look at you and I see her. And then there's like nothing else.
That's
So she is like the living ghost of a woman no one in the room will talk about. Oh, also, 2 of your 3 names are her
Hers.
names. Actually, 3 of your 3 names. You just don't have some of her middle names.
Yeah.
So you, to make matters even worse, like just now share this identity with this woman.
that you never knew.
Right. And you actually can't even really ask people about.
Because no one will talk about
Right.
it. Yeah.
You can't ask your grieving father about
Yeah.
it. You can't ask your stepmother who knew your mom about it.
Yeah.
Right? Your aunt doesn't necessarily think it's a good thing for you to talk about. So the first thing is she the one thing that might legitimately be hers, she can't get access to.
Yeah.
Second, she hates her stepmom. And yeah, that's fair. Tensions in their relationship between young Alice Roosevelt and her stepmother, Edith Kermit Roosevelt, were not good.
Yeah.
Edith had known Alice's mother, biological mother, and made it clear to Alice that while she regarded the late Alice Roosevelt as gorgeous, she also found her insipid and childlike, saying even at one point, while angry at Alice, that if Alice's mother had lived, she would have bored Theodore to death.
What a horrible thing to say to about someone.
Correct. Theodore married Alice in 1880. They were married for 2 years. Yeah.
Ugh.
And so that's not a good relationship with your stepmom.
No.
Who also, in Edith's defense, struggles with the fact that of this parental unit of Edith and Teddy Roosevelt, she's the only one home. Like Teddy is like many powerful men, both now and then,
Yeah.
not home. Like not home in the sense that like he works like 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. No, I mean like months and years away from home at a time, just by nature of like
Yeah.
technology and his profession. Like just actively has homes in different states, not like in a I'm cheating on you way, but like in
Just
a
like this is logistically how the 1800s worked.
right. There is no red eye flight back from Washington D.C. You will see me in the fall.
Yeah.
Goodbye, kind of stuff.
Ooh.
And so
That's Grant's dream, by the way.
I mean, like, send me some text messages. Like, I don't want us to be completely like, you know.
I want to flirt a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't really want you in my space.
I hate to say it. I really do. But I want to flirt between the hours of like 9:22 p.m. when I've gotten home from my dinner plans.
Yes.
And like 10:11 p.m. when I have now brushed my teeth and like done my nighttime routine. And I'm now ready to read. And there's like a candle and like a soft
so like
lamp in the
40
corner.
minutes of
No, that's like
each day.
52 minutes right there at least. And then I'll think about you during the day. No one ever gives you credit for that. I mean, not all
You
the time.
sound like
I am
Lydia
very busy.
with the chicken order.
I do think I deserve more credit. Okay, so really bad relationship with her stepmom,
Okay.
who also has to become the physical embodiment of all of Alice's parental woes because mom passes away, dad's never home, aunt that was raising me passed me off to you and then left the country, and I don't like you. And also,
Yeah.
you have 5 children.
that are
you birthed
clearly more
yourself,
important to you.
that are clear, like
Yeah.
literally first child's name, Theodore, second child's name, Kermit, wife's middle name. Like they don't get to unique names in the 5
No.
children they have until like the 3rd or 4th child.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, also, I think 3rd or 4th child is a different Eleanor Roosevelt, because I think
Jesus Christ.
you'll find out in a second. So she has no connection to her biological
Yeah.
mom, terrible connection to
How
her
is she
stepmother.
both Belle and Cinderella?
Right, correct.
Like-
But also like the worst kid you knew in high school, you know?
Yeah, I think that makes her some kind of.
Because like she clearly has institutions she's going to want to rebel against.
Yes.
But being affluent means she is allowed to rebel against them and then also still get away
And
with
has
it.
the privilege, yeah.
Right. And none of it is healing her trauma.
No.
She feels super replaced by her 5 new
Shocking.
half siblings.
I felt replaced when my parents got another dog after I moved out.
Yeah. My parents turned my bedroom into a beige room, which is better
Ugh.
than what they did to Griffin's room when he moved out, which just became a home office. I at least have a room I can stay in when I go home. Third thing, clearly forming a young Miss Alice. Her family and extended family is famous.
Right.
And for a child trying to find their way in the world,
Mm-hmm.
a world that has already figured out the way you are supposed to behave isn't helpful.
Wait, so why are they famous already? Because this is before the presidency.
Right, they're
They're just like
powerful.
affluent?
Yeah, they're
Like the
affluent.
Skylar,
They're
yeah.
powerful. They're politically connected.
Okay.
All of them come from politicians, former governors, former government people. They are that class of Americans that aren't like the quote unquote founding fathers,
Right.
but were wealthy in America when that was happening.
Okay, yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Like it is very much a social class where you're not even allowed to like marry out of it.
You were just like high enough up when the pool was so small that
Correct.
you just continued to stay.
Here's how wealthy and connected and established they are. They wouldn't invite families like the Vanderbilts to their
Jesus
parties because the
Christ.
Vanderbilts' money wasn't old enough yet. Same with the Rockefellers.
That's, well,
Correct. Yeah. No, correct. And so her family being famous doesn't help her either. She kind of, from a very early age, forms a lifelong feud with Eleanor Roosevelt.
are
Which,
you tying this into your next episode?
No.
Okay.
Not really. No. I mean, with every episode that you and I do, there is always a chance
That's true.
that we reference other episodes. I do so later on in this episode.
Okay.
Naturally, of course. No,
Okay.
it's not really connected to the
Because
next
the next theme is famous feuds, and
Yeah.
Grant said the word feuds, and I went, what?
one. No, I'm going to give you about 90% of their feud right now in this
Okay,
next bullet
perfect.
point.
Oh, I
After
love a
this
good feud.
wine pour. Actually, you can talk and pour. So, Eleanor and
Learning multitasking.
Eleanor and Alice are roughly the same age.
Right.
Both at times raised by Bammy because, oh, what's that? Eleanor also loses her parents at a really young age. Mom to a sickness,
Oof.
and then dad to alcoholism, which is also a sickness, but like was
Yeah,
thought of differently at the
different,
time. I think those initial identity markers means Alice channeled a lot of the meanness she felt the world had shown her then to Eleanor.
Okay.
She's like, this is how I have been treated. And this is how people like me are treated. So this is how I'm going to treat you.
So I was on Reddit recently, and they have like the Ask Me Anything, or like Ask Reddit or whatever. And one of them was like, what's one piece of advice or one like, I don't know, drop of wisdom that has like truly changed the way you go about life? Do you have one of those? I'll give you a second to think.
Yeah, give me a second to think.
Because mine is Bill Nye when he said, everyone you meet will know something that you don't. Because that's cool. The one that struck me in these comments, like I don't even remember any of the other ones that I was scrolling through, was like, this changed how I parent when someone said, the way you talk to your children is how they will learn to talk to themselves. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, crazy.
I don't have something initially off
Yeah.
the top of my head, but especially in reference to children, there's this like TikTok trend, and it's like parental advice to their children. There's a difference between telling your child they're being mean to you because they're jealous of you, and they're being mean to you imagine what life like is like at home for them.
For them, yeah.
Right? Like one is like your superior. The other one is like find empathy.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of conversations like that this week with kids.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. At one point, they didn't hear the like third empathy call. I was like, but what if we had like a little bit of compassion for this situation, right? In fact, maybe that's a Patreon story at the end. A different thing. But I was like, what if we had a little bit more empathy? They're like, no, I don't think so, blah, 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 blah. And so I just kind of looked at them and I go, okay, then I'm going to level with you. This is honestly like so high schoolish and it's like really boring to me. And I don't think you're should be as angry as you are right now. You haven't shared anything that seems that like big of a deal.
You're not going to have empathy. I won't have empathy to you.
I think I've tried the empathy and now we're going to add a little bit of perspective
Tough
to
love.
it all. Yeah. Eleanor doesn't experience that from Alice. It's actually, I'm not going to be able to do it like the next month or two because I'm doing Alice Roosevelt right now.
Yeah.
But I'm going to want to do an Eleanor Roosevelt episode at some point.
Yeah.
Eleanor Roosevelt's also abandoned, has a brother that's more successful, is being treated maliciously by this cousin that she should otherwise be really close with in terms of Alice. And also, in addition to all of this, here's what is said about Alice. Alice is so charismatic. Alice is so outgoing. Alice is so funny. Alice is so gorgeous. Here's what's said about Eleanor by Eleanor's family. Eleanor's ugly. Eleanor's homely. Eleanor's family was embarrassed of how average looking she was before their death. Eleanor's smart.
Oof.
Yeah.
I have chills.
Alice Roosevelt once said of Eleanor when asked like what her thoughts were.
Yeah.
She goes, Eleanor is goodness and goodness is boring. Yeah.
That sounds like it came from the Hunger Games.
A little bit, right?
Yeah, that's a Caesar Flickerman line right there.
One historian said, the true tragedy is that Alice and Eleanor shared so much in common.
Yeah.
During their lives, Alice isn't allowed to express herself the way that she wants to and do the things that she wants to. Eleanor isn't allowed to love the person she wants to love. And so she has a famous family, terrible relationship with her stepmother, a biological mother that no one will speak of, but who she is named directly after and is apparently the like haunting image of.
Yeah.
Number 3, her dad is a goddamn menace. Like her dad is a menace everywhere they go.
Oh no.
Her dad is popular, ambitious, from a well-to-do connected family. People are like, I want to know Teddy. He's going places. He's also highly adventurous, like famous for his time out west. A raging good time. Someone once said of Teddy Roosevelt is the bride at every wedding, the corpse at every funeral, and the baby at every christening.
Shut the fuck up.
He's
That's
just
such a cool line.
I know. And do you know who said it?
Who?
Alice Roosevelt.
Shut the fuck up.
And then that quote was then used to describe her.
Oh.
No one reads you better than those who love you. Oh, and in addition to all of this, guess who Teddy Roosevelt's favorite niece is?
Eleanor. Yep. Oh God.
Yeah.
That's complicated.
Isn't it so toxic?
It's so toxic. It's like the entire family. Yeah. It's the whole family pitting everyone against each other.
I'm never around, but when I am around, let me dote on my niece, who's Eleanor,
Yes.
who's oftentimes compared to my daughter Alice, who I forget
also
exists.
won't
and
say
for
her name.
some reason is awful to Eleanor.
Yeah. I wonder why. And also hates my second wife.
I just don't know why Alice is so hard to control.
Yeah.
Her father, being this like raging, gregarious good time, loves to, when the family's together, play all these big sporting events. Remember, this is the man who believes he cured his own asthma by horseback riding.
Yeah, that's
he's this adventurous guy. He scales El Capitan in what we now know as like Yosemite National Park.
Wait, what? Like climbs the mountain or like fully like climb, like free solo climb?
Doesn't free solo, but like climbs to the top.
Climbs to the top, okay.
This, sorry if this is a little like lore drop for you guys.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt is the person who creates America's national parks. He's a huge outdoorsman.
Was he the one that was like walk softly and carry a big stick?
We're going to talk about that too.
Okay.
Yes, he is. Teddy Roosevelt also maybe was trying to preserve America's like natural beauty so he could continue to hunt in it. But like I said,
I remember that
everything
too,
about Teddy Roosevelt's really complicated.
Yeah.
Her dad when they are all together, the like limited and precious family time Alice gets with him, loves to do all these sporting games or whatever.
Okay.
That Alice always loses because Alice had polio. Yeah. Not an intense version like her distant cousin Franklin will have.
Oh, yeah.
But a soft version of it, like a softer, more mild case of it.
Yeah.
That means as a child, she had incredibly weak legs. Physically could never win. So she is literally losing to her 5 half siblings and her
All
cousin
the time.
Eleanor all the time. And it humiliates a person like
Yeah.
Alice, who oftentimes the only thing she really has is her pride. And
Yeah.
it humiliates her.
I can imagine.
Fortunately, she gets treatments and like her polio is taken care of and she kind of recovers and moves on. And those treatments were dictated, demanded, and managed by her stepmother, who loved her enough to be like, we have to put you through physical therapy. Like, I'm going to commit to you. And later in life, Alice
Okay.
Roosevelt will be like, I am not wheelchair set because of my stepmother. Because of
Okay.
everyone's so complicated.
Everyone's so complicated.
You're also like, you're 10, you hate the stepmother. She's making you hurt. But also at the same time, you want to be able to run. Right?
Yeah.
You are so, where's your dad?
Yeah. Like, hey, kiddo, are your parents here?
In 1898, so like I said, this is the range from like when she's 2 to 14. In 1898, Alice is 14. Her dad, who's done a bunch of kind of wild, crazy shit that we're going to talk about in a second,
Yeah.
comes back to America and becomes governor of New York basically instantly. And him and Edith sit down with Alice and they're like, hey,
You can't be around.
you're almost a young lady now. And we think that means it's time that we ship you off to a
Yep.
boarding school. Yeah, they're like, you
Because
can't be around.
they don't want to have like the scandal of
Don't want the
having- yeah.
scandal. They've never been able to like contain her. She's becoming more and more outspoken as not shocking anyone who's been listening. She realizes the only way she gets any attention at all is if she acts out. Because everyone else in this family is literally gone or too busy pursuing legitimate political careers. So if she wants anyone to notice her, a child who has felt abandoned since the second day of her life,
Yeah.
she needs to cause a scene. And so that's what she does. And then her dad comes back,
Yeah.
more popular than ever. And they're like, we think we're going to send you away. And this is really when I
Wow.
decided this story should be about Alice.
Yeah.
This is a quote. Alice looks at Edith and Teddy.
Oh no.
She's 14 years old. And
14?
she goes, if you send me, I will humiliate you. I will do something that will shame you. I tell you, I will. You send me away and you can kiss your precious political career goodbye. I will shame myself to depths you have never thought of before as punishment for you shipping me off.
I
She's
can't even be
14.
mad about it.
No, I get it.
can't. Like, that's fucking genius. That's genius and self-aware. It's not even like kids that don't know why they're acting out. I think like she's put it together.
She's kinda
like,
figured it.
oh, you gonna do that?
Right.
Great. Give me an excuse to do something stupid.
See, what's so funny, Poppykins,
Yeah.
Mousykins,
Oh, I see.
is I thought, you think none of this has to do with you. Yes. You go to, I don't know, Alberta. Nope. Albuquerque. Nope. Albany, capital of New York.
Okay.
Albany. You go to, I can't do it. I've now completely killed her momentum. But no, you're right. She's like, I will not be ignored. I will not be shipped away. I also think to a certain degree, Alice realizes the further physically she is from this source of power, the further she is literally from this source of power, right? Like she is looking at 14, the precipice of being cut out from a family that will move on without her.
Yes.
Who kind of already is.
Yeah, so she's fighting to stay there.
Correct. And she's like, you're not getting rid of me.
Like,
I am not going to
do
do
it,
that.
I dare you.
Yeah. If you send me, I will bring this entire family down.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with that, actually. I'm obsessed.
And they're like,
Gotcha.
hey, okay, so we don't want that.
Yeah.
So
You caught us.
yeah. Here's the thing. One of the reasons why I identify with that so much is not only because, listeners, you know, I love a strong, independent woman who demands the world bend to her rules. But
Well,
also,
is this one an author?
I mean, obviously she writes a book.
Yeah.
But one big reason why I identify with it is because at the age of 16, I was struggling to learn Spanish. And at one point had a D. Now, granted, I was doing well enough in my other classes to still maintain honor roll, but had a D. And my parents weren't happy with it. And Dad, I love you. Dad was especially not happy with it. And the reason why I point him out is because Dad was not a good student in school.
I love when that happens.
Granted, Dad had like maybe a learning like difference that wasn't diagnosed because it was the goddamn 60s,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
But it felt a little bit like I'm being held up to higher standards. And so when my dad found out I had a D in Spanish, he looked at me and he goes, "You will not go to another speech tournament until that grade is raised." And since that was my space to be queer and authentically myself,
Yeah.
I looked at him and I said, "I'll run away.
Do it.
You won't see me again. You certainly won't hear from me again." And my mom stepped in and was like, "You are both so dramatic. Do you want a tutor? Do you need us to get you a tutor? We'll get you a Spanish tutor. What do you need to pull your grade up?" And I go, "No, it's fine. I just like, we got to go to office hours a little bit this week." And they're like, "We can make that happen.
We can,
You
we
go
can,
to
yeah,
office
Jesus
hours."
Christ.
They might remember that story differently. That's crystal clear in my mind. I
How
can like,
you remember it?
I could set up the kitchen the way it was for that memory.
I just
for me.
love this because I love when parents are like, we expect you to do well. We want you to do the best that you be the best that you can be.
Right.
And then like looking at their history and the stories they tell, you're like, and then when you go and back and rebel, they come at you with the, "I never treated my parents this way." Girl, what the fuck?
You're right.
Pick a lane.
Listen, the things we could say on Patreon
Yep.
about this exact topic.
Beyond a paywall.
I would just say this. One time my dad was like, you should never get anything lower than a 100% on a spelling test, because a spelling test is the only test you'll take where you have all the answers ahead of time. Sage advice.
That's a memorization quiz.
My dad has dyslexia. I don't know who the fuck he thinks he's talking to right now.
Okay, did you get 100 on everyone?
No.
Yeah.
I had severely untreated attention deficit disorder that because it was the 90s, I have learned ways to adapt, but never actually freely address.
Side-eye, come on, get on video side-eye with me now, please, listener.
So we're getting close to the end of the bullet points. She has all these reasons as to why this time period of her life is just like so mean and neglected.
Yeah.
And it's all happening in the shadow of what might be the best 14 years any man has ever lived on this earth.
Oh, God.
And that is what Teddy Roosevelt gets to do during all of this time. He gets a new wife.
Good gig if you can get it.
Yeah, no, for reals.
Yeah.
Gets a new wife who he's loved a really long time.
Yeah, like childhood sweetheart.
Right. Immediately has 5 kids.
Yep.
Right. And then he's like, I think I'm just going to go off and have a little bit of an adventure. So,
Oh, no.
Alice is somewhat in the public eye, right?
Right.
Raising a stir in their like local community
Obviously,
of Oyster Bay,
yes.
Long Island, New York, right? Her dad, when he returns from North Dakota in like 1887, 1888, kind of starts off a crazy spree. So he runs for mayor of New York, loses, but does way better than anyone thinks he's supposed to be.
Right.
And he thinks, oh, that's tough. Like I went for the higher office.
Didn't
I
get it.
lost. No, that's it. That's it for my political career. I'm instead going to write like an incredible book about the western part of the United States.
And that's going to gain notoriety.
Correct. And I'm going to make a shit ton of money off of it.
And then I'm going to get elected mayor.
and then people are going to continue perpetuating this idea of me as like this like rugged man's man, which is appealing to like working class people. But I'm also like from Oyster Bay, Long Island. So like
You can't even
Right.
Oyster Bay, like that
Right.
is the name of my favorite Sauv Blanc, but it's from New Zealand, so don't get it twisted. I can't say Long Island without like Long Island.
Right,
Like you probably
exactly.
heard it in the first Long Island. Like that's genetic, babes.
I like to think that like Oyster Bay's crosstown rival is the Caviar Cavaliers, right? Like
Done.
they're
That's canon now. Make that a minor league baseball team. I hope Long Island has 2. We got to make this happen.
So yeah, so that's what.
Yeah.
So like he writes this book. It like reinforces this image of him being like this like rugged kind of like man of the people, but also like he's old American
Yeah.
money. So the book does really well. That then parlays into becoming head police commissioner for New York City, which at the time is
You
really
could really just do anything back in the day, right?
You don't even
Like
fucking.
what the fuck?
You don't even fucking know what I'm about to say.
Yeah, I know.
Because becoming New York City police commissioner, I don't know what he did for crime. What he didn't do was crack down on a political machine. And when he didn't crack down on it, they were like, "We like your guts, kid. How would you like to benefit from a political machine?" And he was like, "Well, I think that sounds great."
Interesting.
Yeah. So that political machine gets him appointed to several different committees in Washington, D.C.,
Oh, my
where
God.
he rubs elbows with enough people at parties where they're like, you know what? We've been looking for a new assistant secretary to the Navy. I don't know if I truly
Sure.
don't know if Teddy Roosevelt had been on a boat before he became Secretary of the Navy.
They were like, you got the look.
No, for real. Hey, I like your gumption, kiddo.
Yes, literally.
Let's do it. It's like,
Why did we come up with this whole prerequisite bullshit for jobs? They're like, you need 3 years of experience. Back in the day, they're like, I like how brave you were back there. Like, what the fuck?
no, like for
Where
real.
did we go wrong?
They're just like, you're such a weird, eccentric man. Come
Let's
on,
give
and,
you a job.
And then he's like, "Thank you so much. We need more battleships, more battleships."
Because of course he
right,
would.
and everyone's like, "We made the right choice. Perfect selection for Assistant Secretary of the Navy." His like big thing is the American West, a famous place, famous in part that it's not a fucking ocean.
And it also, like, a lot of it doesn't have any ocean.
Right, it's like desert or mountain and sometime river. You know,
Yeah.
like it's. Side note on all of this, there is this nonprofit in Nebraska called the Nebraska Navy. And if you are an important citizen, or not like important, but like you're a citizen who like deserves honoring, the Nebraska Navy makes you an honorary admiral of the Nebraska Navy, which is of course like truly funny and a little self-deprecating in a way that only Nebraska really sometimes manages.
I love that.
I do too. My grandma Donna was an admiral of the Nebraska Navy.
Oh, yeah, you have told me that.
For her advocacy for people with disabilities.
Similar but different, across the street from my office building is a scuba diving class.
I'm so terrified at how quickly you have adopted similar but different and then just launched into a completely different and no way similar. I guess water connects those two. But in my story, water doesn't even exist. Good. That's good.
There's no water. There's no pool. It's just a building. But somehow you can get a license to scuba dive from there.
You're joking.
No, I'm not.
Have you been inside?
No, I'm terrified of
I'm
it.
positive there is a pool in that building that's way deeper than you are emotionally prepared
Nope,
to
nope,
deal
nope,
with.
nope, 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 nope. You shut your mouth. You shut your
Like
goddamn
right
mouth.
across the place from where you work, there's like
No.
ocean levels, but in a
nope,
stadium.
nope. I'm going to continue with the belief that it's entirely, essentially empty.
And I am now, for the first time ever, going to really, really learn where you work so I can find out the aquarium.
Well, I haven't been to the office in
aquarium
several months.
across the street.
Aquarium.
So he's like Assistant Secretary of the Navy, but that actually, this is so funny, kind of makes him Acting Secretary of the Navy because the current Secretary of the Navy is real old and
Oh.
like not really so much with the working anymore, right? And so
Some things haven't changed.
correct. So 1887, all of his cows die. 1888, he runs for mayor of New York, loses. 1889 to 1890, book writing, okay? Then it's committee work for a little bit. And then, I got this timeline right. Yep, okay, great. And then like
Jesus.
in the 1890s, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, which means he's Acting Secretary of the Navy, and he keeps going to President William McKinley, and he's like, "We gotta have a war with Spain. You got Puerto Rico, you got Cuba, you got the Philippines, you
Blame
got
the main on Spain.
correct, yes,
Yes.
correct." And this gets to part of like why Roosevelt's legacy and so many
So
presidents at the time is so
complicated.
complicated. Because one of the reasons why he wants America to go to war with Spain is because Teddy Roosevelt, like many American kind of like educated elites at the time,
Yeah.
had this belief that it's crucial that the United States be an active force in ridding the Americas of European influence.
And bringing Russia to the Catholic Church. Watch last week's episode.
Okay, but like in so many
Yes.
ways, you're right.
Yeah.
He's like, we need to remove European influence in the Americas to
That's
make
wild.
room for U.S. influence in the Americas.
I would agree only on the account of iced coffee
Yeah.
and air conditioning.
For those of you who are big fans of history, around this time in Europe, there's this thing called the Berlin Conference, where all these Western European powers are coming together with a literal map of Africa, and they are just
Right.
carving out what parts
Yeah.
of Africa they all get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's viewed as like terrible and has had
Yeah.
geopolitical consequences up to today. Teddy Roosevelt is basically telling President McKinley, we have colonialism at home. Like, we don't need McDonald's. Do you sometimes
so
see
fucked
like
up.
why I was such a good history teacher?
I literally see that every time we do a history episode because halfway through I'm like, am I just sitting and learning about history
Wait,
right
am I engaged?
because I didn't have this through all of A-Push, like the entire time.
And McKinley's like, no, we don't. No, we don't. And he's like, but we do. And he's like, we'll get Europe out of the Americas, well, at least Spain, and that's good. You know, God, yes, someone needs to govern those territories, and like that might be okay for us, just for like at least initially for us to do it. You know, like it gives us a sense of national pride, and then. You know, our Army and Navy needs the practice because he knows America is about to kick the shit out of Spain. And McKinley's like, no. And then the warship, the USS Maine, blows up in Havana Harbor, killing hundreds of people, including U.S. servicemen. Historical record aside, a lot of questions as to why the Maine blew up. It could have been a technical difficulty.
I seem to remember
or an
that
attack.
being an unsolved case.
Yeah, unsolved in the sense that like America doesn't want to admit that it maintained the Maine poorly and its own boiler blew up. Because let me tell you who was not excited for the Spanish-American War. Spain.
Yeah. Yeah, Spain was not like...
No, they weren't. Yeah.
First strike.
Yeah. So the USS Maine blows up. And before President McKinley can be like, yes, we're going to war, Teddy Roosevelt basically unchecked at the Admiralty.
Starts a whisper campaign?
Nope, not a whisper campaign.
A shouting
Sends
campaign?
out orders to American warships, prepare for battle. Like get your men on the boats, get the bullets in the chamber. Because like, you know, these ships need coal. They need their crew to come in. They need like potable water or things like that. Like there are certain things that they can't just sail out like they can now. Right? Yeah. Like the American Navy now can functionally stay at sea forever.
Except that we can't land fighter jets on our boats. So
okay.
Just that in case anyone doesn't.
Okay.
Have you not heard this?
I don't know.
We've lost like 4. It's since notably since Pete Hegseth has taken over.
Fighter jets?
Yeah, they like have either fallen off or not landed correctly or something.
That's not good.
No. I may have gotten that number wrong, but
wow.
We've lost more than is normal.
Well, have we asked the New York City Police Commissioner what he's doing?
Have you considered joining the Navy?
And so he gets the U.S. fleet armed and ready to go. And then President McKinley in 1897 is like, fine, we'll go to war. And Teddy Roosevelt is like, thank you. I am now going to resign to go fight in that war. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And President Theodore Roosevelt goes, yeah, I've ridden a horse before. I know what I'm doing.
You're like, but this is on a boat.
Right. He goes, I'm going to get me several other of my Ivy League friends together. And then just kind of anyone who doesn't have anything going on right now. So like the unemployed, indigenous Americans, formerly enslaved people, probably a handful of former Union and Confederate soldiers, including an old Confederate general. And they form the U.S. 1st Volunteer Cavalry, also affectionately known as the Rough Riders.
No.
And they get dropped off in Cuba and just fight their way through the Spanish.
I'm sorry?
As Teddy Roosevelt gets to, quote, literally fight a war he helped start.
I was really hoping you would say he was like, he only took people with him that had nothing going on, like rich aristocrats. And I was like, yeah, I would watch that Ocean's 15.
No,
like,
yeah. He gets a bunch of Ivy Leaguers who are also like, I have to prove myself before I like work at a desk. Right. And then like, let's get people that have actually had to work for their living to like kind of blend in with everyone. We'll buy the horses, you teach us how to shoot kind of stuff. I mean,
it's
kind
giving Hunger Games.
It's giving buddy comedy. I want to know if Alice wants Teddy to come back from the war or not. Is Alice like, please come back, Dad, or I think you should?
She's like, well,
right. Because
that might have been the last time I saw him.
Is about Alice, but you can't talk about Alice without talking about her dad
Teddy.
specifically during this time. He has a child without his biological mother and then 5 other children. He has 6 children at home. I've seen people give up community kickball to take care of 2 children.
I've seen people quit community kickball to take care of a cat.
Yes. And he's like, I have started a war so I could go fight in that war. What do you not understand about my journey? This is Eurovision.
It's not phase, Mom.
And so, spoiler alert, America wins the war. We grab Puerto Rico, colonialism, still hold it. Free, huge air quotes, Cuba, U.S. installed regime. We're liberators. And then hold the Philippines, which we will continue to hold until World War II when the Japanese invade and take it. And then we will, quote unquote, liberate it and then try to hold it. And the Philippines will be like, hey, thanks for liberating us, but we'd like to be free now. And America will be like, no. And they're like, no, but for reals. And then the Filipinos will fight a guerrilla war against U.S. military occupation. And then eventually America will be like, fine, we'll leave. And for whatever reason, no one ever talks about how the U.S. violently put down a freedom fighter movement in a colony that we held in the Pacific. Like I said, Roosevelt's legacy is complicated. Here's a picture of him.
I don't know what to do with any of that information.
Just like,
Boom, boom, boom.
This is a picture of the Rough Riders.
I can't.
Who do you think Teddy Roosevelt is in that?
I can't tell. They all look the same.
Teddy Roosevelt. He will be president in 3 years in this photo.
He looks like a bad Boy Scout,
Do you know what I also love about this? Is you zoom out, I've captioned it. Alice is 13 back home hating her stepmom when this photo is taken. Her dad is again kind of wrapping up this like kind of lone wolf era, but I also have on my second wife and I have 6 kids at home. Meanwhile, he has a literal teenage daughter who is smoking cigarettes and like cursing at her mom and definitely making out with boys. Like that needs to be clear.
Incredible.
Okay, so Teddy comes home, now more popular than ever. He's like home more in the sense that he's in the same country and state that Alice is, but now has so much stuff going on. Beforehand, he was just an eccentric man from a wealthy family.
Now he's
serious.
Got credentials.
Correct.
Apparently.
Here's the order of events. The Spanish-American War starts in 1897.
Yeah.
It's done by 1898.
Right.
Like a year.
Yeah. Wow.
He basically comes back in the late spring of 1898, wins the Republican nomination for governor of New York like a month or two later, and then by one singular percentage point wins the governorship.
Oh my God.
That November of 1898. Mm-hmm. He's president for like he's governor for like a solid 18 months.
Bro.
And then the election of 1900 is approaching.
Right.
Election of 1900 is approaching. He's a Republican of a big state.
Yes.
He gets named to the Republican ticket. He's like, don't make me, but like if you want, but like don't make me. And he gets named. McKinley is running for re-election. The year's 1900.
Yes.
McKinley wins with Teddy Roosevelt on the ticket in the election of 1900.
Right.
You with me so far? Okay.
Vice President
Teddy Roosevelt, President McKinley.
Right.
Now into his second term. And then McKinley makes the mistake of going to Buffalo, New York, where
I deadass thought you were going to say Buffalo Wild Wings.
That's where we get the word buffalo for Buffalo Wild Wings, right?
Now that you say that, that does make sense.
The sauce that we use specifically is from Buffalo, New York. Yeah, there's nothing Buffalo about it, other than the city that originated them from.
Okay.
Buffalo's also famous for where President McKinley was killed.
Got me.
And so it's 1901. President McKinley goes to Buffalo, doesn't return. And also, to reference an old episode, President McKinley is shot on the day Robert Todd Lincoln is entering Buffalo.
Oh!
Narrowly missing his third presidential assassination in his lifetime.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so since he's vice president, Teddy becomes president.
Right.
The year is 1901.
Wow, that's a wild couple of years.
Yeah. Alice is 17 years old. And now we're going to go back to Alice. And now we're going to go back to Alice. Because, like, you got to understand that to understand where Alice lands. Mm-hmm. Because Alice is 17.
Right.
Well crafted in the art of, like, using attention to get what she wants.
Oh, yeah.
She's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
She's smart. She's witty. She's the bride at every wedding, the corpse at every funeral, and the baby at every christening.
I fucking love that.
And now within these walls of the White
Hell
House,
yeah. Hell yeah. Good one.
she's going to become a national icon.
Incredible.
Yeah. I honestly circled a little bit as around to like what topic I would do for this theme. And then I was like, oh, it's at the White House within the walls of that very specific building that Alice goes from a peculiarity in Oyster Bay to someone that the American press only needs to refer to as Princess Alice for us to know what she is.
I have heard that name.
Yeah.
Oh.
When are you going to find out why?
Yeah, Jesus.
I'm going to take a little wine break.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Do you need to pee?
No. I'm vibing.
I am too. It's been a lot of history. I hope it's been like fun, kind of like interesting.
It's been
history.
fun history.
Remember how a couple months ago I was like, I just want to do a 3-part series on the Gilded Age?
Yeah.
So all of this is still Gilded Age, kind
is
of
it really?
into Progressive Age.
Oh, yeah.
And I've decided that this is actually the way I want to approach that entire era. Just kind of airdrop into the narratives that I find most interesting.
I think that's fair. I think that's what our listeners come here for.
I think so too.
Did you see someone commented on one of our reels and was like, who honestly listens to these stupid ass podcasts or something like that? And then one of our listeners commented, decidedly not men. It was a man.
I love that.
And then I responded, our demographic is people who are interested in learning fun things about history. So if that's not you, babes, just say it. And he responded with a gif of Jennifer Lawrence like rolling her eyes. And then he responded to the person that said decidedly not men with and also not intelligent women. And I was this close and I was like, it's not fucking worth it. We're podcast of the year.
Like we literally are
Yeah.
podcast of the year.
Yeah.
And we have cultivated a community of women who know their worth, at least
And
in this result.
the fact that they just came into at least that one came into the comments and was like, not you.
Interesting. A hot hinge guy.
Mm.
Because we're talking about families now. Has 2 younger sisters.
Mm.
He's the oldest of 3. He's close with his sisters and his mom.
Okay.
So is it an Alice Roosevelt situation? Or like what's going on with his
He's
dad
close with his sisters and his mom.
and his mom?
He's gay and men are toxic. I
Hey,
can see that as being the most.
I have a weirdly healthy relationship with my dad.
I'm fully aware. You also have a very healthy family right now.
That's
Like, I don't
fair.
know what the fuck you're talking about.
Have you seen that TikTok trend where it's like, I'm gay because my dad? What? No. I love my dad. And then it's pictures of like dads that like taking kids to like Comic-Con or like a fucking furry fest or whatever. It's just like a dad who's like a fucking ride or die no matter
just
what.
ally.
Yeah,
No matter.
fucking sweater fest at a goth concert. Just,
That's Greg.
Yeah.
I can see it.
No, it really is.
I
Honestly,
know.
Dad would want to be dressed up a little bit. He would ask for
My
okay.
dad could never.
Okay. So Teddy Roosevelt takes over as president in 1901.
Mm-hmm.
This is the culmination of his entire family's political ambitions. It's a dream that he has dreamt basically his entire life
Right.
and at multiple times assumed wasn't for him, like wasn't going to happen. He gets it, and he has 6 children coming along with him because Alice, at 17 years old, is his oldest child.
Oh my God. Nightmare.
This is what I wrote for the White House years. What I'm about to say isn't going to shock anyone.
Yeah.
Alice needed attention. Like probably a hug and like maybe an apology from Theodore.
She also just needed, I think, someone to sit down and be like, for sure, no, that sucks for about 5 hours while she talked.
She specifically needed the attention of her father, and then I put in parentheses, as is her right, / God forbid a woman have a hobby.
Daddy issues, as said hobby.
Right. But that also means that when she turned 18 in 1902 and did her debutante Washington Society coming out party, she was able to do that from her perch of the White House. And it's within these walls, Alice will really make a name for herself. And this is a picture of her 18th birthday.
Get the fuck
Look
out.
at that chin line.
Look at that.
People
just
have surgery
whole
to have it.
face.
Yeah.
She's stunning. And I also would expect some witty remarks from her.
Oh, you're going to get more than witty remarks from her.
Hell yeah.
So at her coming out party where she like enters society, she enters in this blue dress that is so stunning. The color gets called Alice Blue, and that's still the name of it today.
Seriously?
The way I would describe Alice Blue is, okay, picture the Arctic or
Yes.
Antarctica. Okay. on the edge of Antarctica where there's like floating glaciers and stuff.
Right.
Right. You have that deep blue navy water.
Right.
And then you have those like white glaciers. But then sometimes on the inside of the glacier,
Mhm.
it
You get
turns
the
to that like
blue.
kind of bluish. That's Alice blue.
I need to look it up. I'm gonna look it up. Yep. Correct. Even
Yeah.
a picture of an iceberg showed up.
Correct. Did my research.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It becomes all the rage. It becomes the color everyone needs.
Yeah.
And the White House provided her with a platform, a venue. She loved the attention.
Yeah.
Even if it did at times kind of rub against her, because she's also a party girl. And real party girls know that if you want to be a real party girl, sometimes you got to be innocuous.
Sometimes you got to be a potty girl.
Sometimes you got to be a potty girl, go piss girl. And I was there on the internet when that meme was born.
Okay.
Don't quote the old Magic to Me witch.
Alice being the witch.
Like sometimes you just want to be able to do degenerate ass shit on your own without anyone noticing you.
Said Grant
instance-
never.
One time she was being driven from one party to another party by her black chauffeur. And there was like a driving kerfuffle, right? Two drivers thought they had the right of way. And the other car, driven by two white men, get out, start berating this black driver with racial epithets. And Alice gets out of the car and goes, "Get out of the road, you white son of a bitch." And then the black
Queen
chauffeur has to load her back into the car as she's like swinging at these two people.
Incredible.
And you can definitely tell it's not quoted like that's where the historical quote ends.
yeah.
But you know in moment she was like, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who my father is? I will beat the shit out of you and send you to Cuba.
I will ruin your
Send
life.
you to Cuba. Tell me your name." Right? She gets like loaded back into a car. America held a colonial state in Cuba for a while.
Yeah.
And so as she gets like loaded back into the car, she wasn't here for it. She was progressive. I want to say this
Yeah.
now. I didn't do enough research to tell you. At the time when she was 17,
Yes.
I don't know if she was progressive because that was her truly held political beliefs, or if because being progressive in these ways garnered the most media attention. If it was just cool to be a warrior in these kind
Right.
of ways. Because like at least in her White House years, she said a lot, action-wise did very little.
yeah.
It'll
Yep.
be different later in life, but in the White House,
Yeah.
she's getting all this attention. That's what
She's
loved.
also probably experiencing what it's like to be loved for
Right.
who she is for the first time. And that doesn't give you a lot of room to have a ton of emotional capacity for helping others.
Right, right. And also, let's not even use the word love for a second. Let's take it to a slightly lower motion. Just celebrated
Yeah.
for who she
Yeah.
was. Hey, Alice, good job.
Yeah.
Right?
Not, "Hey, Alice, I like Eleanor more."
I think you mean, hey, Alice, how long have you been there? Right? Like, I think that's honestly what a lot of her.
Who the fuck are you?
Exactly. Holy shit, you've gotten big.
You've gotten old.
Okay, so like I said, it's as a daughter of Teddy Roosevelt in the White House where she will live his entire presidency.
Right.
He's there for basically 7 years. She's mid-20s when they leave. This is when she calls him the bride at every wedding. Blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
Right.
She's a social animal. She's a powerhouse. She has Washington, D.C. under her charms at a time when actually that's really good. That's
Yeah.
really useful. Like a administrative official from the Trump or Biden White House who goes out, picks fights in bars, is drunk often in public.
Yes.
Is saying whatever she wants or they want or he wants, regardless of what the administration stance is. Yeah, like that's not good today.
No.
But at the time, Washington, D.C. isn't covered in the way that we cover it now.
Yeah.
You get headlines about certain laws or bills, but like the Omaha World Herald, the Denver Post, the San Francisco Chronicle, they're not covering Washington, D.C. society. They're covering Omaha, Denver, San Francisco society. Like they have their own microcosm of news.
Mm-hmm.
And so being a socialite in Washington, D.C. actually helps pass bills because she ends up kind of making a bunch of friends. Like everyone kind of ends up, you want to go to Alice's party, right?
Yeah.
And you're much more likely to work with the person that you've drank with, right? You're much more
True.
likely to find compromise with a person that you've partied with. And so
Yeah.
Alice as a social animal is in many ways helpful to her dad's political agenda, which is partially why I think he tolerates so much of
what
her
she does.
actions. A Paris socialite newspaper
Incredible.
documented what her first 15 months in the White House were.
Incredible.
The journal Die Daba in Paris noted that in the first...
That wasn't right.
Nope, but I said it confidently, like Alice would. That in the first...
Alice probably knew French.
Yeah, she definitely did.
Yeah.
Then the first 15 months of her time in the White House, Alice... Okay, so first, how many days is in 15 months?
What?
You have 365 days in a year.
Who do you think I
and then
am?
add 90.
350. Yeah, exactly.
So what's that number?
So you want me to do the math for you?
355. Sorry, 455. I was doing the math for you. It's 455 days, roughly, in 15 months. Yeah. Okay? So in 455 days, Alice attended 407
Holy fucking shit.
dinners, 350 balls, and 300 parties, including over 350 teas, like afternoon teas.
So her schedule was packed.
Yes. One newspaper at the time asked her, what's it like to be a Roosevelt? And her answer was to always have something going on every second of the day.
Yeah, because she probably had multiple events every day, most days.
Correct. Sunrise to sunset,
Yeah.
which was usually actually when the sun was rising again.
Yeah.
One newspaper, what state was it from? Okay, no. So one newspaper alleged that at a party in Newport, Rhode Island, she stripped down to her lingerie, danced on a table, and had a drunken orgy.
Oh.
That was proven false. But like,
Okay.
it had to be proven false. It wasn't like, that doesn't sound like Alice.
Yeah, and the
Everyone
public was like, no.
Well, who were the testimonies?
Yeah.
Let's see the
We'd
receipts.
like to hear all of the stories.
She smoked cigarettes in public, rode in cars with men she was not married to,
Beautiful.
stayed out late partying, and was regularly seen placing bets with a bookie.
Okay, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
If you were a child of a president,
Mm-hmm.
do you think it would be easier to grow up in the White House
Mm-hmm.
or to be in college while your parent is president or an adult?
So it's like, am I an adult while am I an adult when my dad's president,
Yeah.
or am I a child while my mom's president?
Yeah, one or the other.
Oh, that's tough. I think being a child while your parent is president will make you guarded for the rest of your life, and that sucks.
Yeah.
I think being an adult, even like a teenage
Yeah.
adult, when your parent is president, means you will probably commit more mistakes against your parents' administration,
Right.
but will ultimately make you a much more interesting person. That's my answer.
Fair enough. I feel like growing up with the attention at some point, like Obama's kids, Sasha
Right.
and
Malia.
Malia, probably don't remember a whole lot from before their dad was famous.
Sure.
Right? And so they kind of grew up with that. And I feel like it's easier to like adjust to that and have people be like, oh, you're an Obama, like when
Right.
you go to college then. But then like if you're just in college and your dad's like, by the way, honey, got elected for president, you're like, huh?
Right.
And
There's-
then everyone's like, wait a minute.
There's this really funny story of Malia who desperately wanted
Yeah.
to, I might be getting some of these details wrong,
Yeah.
but from what I remember,
Yeah.
from what Michelle Obama had shared, Malia really wanted her prom date to drive her to prom. Like that
I
was
think
an
I did
experience
hear about
she
this. I
wanted.
don't remember the story though.
So they were like, after deliberation, they were like, yeah, that's fine. Like your boyfriend or whatever can drive you to prom. And then it was like the White House Pacer van in front and like the security van behind. But like the physical car that drove her to prom was driven by her prom date or whatever. I also think like with respect to Malia and Sasha, they had the double challenge of being the first kids in the White House since the Kennedys,
yeah.
and the first Black kids in the White House
Ever. Yeah.
who were,
Yeah.
how do I say this? I was going to say the first Black kids in the White House related to the president, but Thomas Jefferson's presidency existed. The first Black kids in the White House claimed by the president,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think they had obviously more conditions to consider.
You're right.
I think I'd rather be an adult and my parents in the White House. And also, like, no offense, I don't want to damage your political career every day, but I'm allowed to make mistakes. You were the one that decided to run for president.
That's super fair. You know what? Yeah.
So, Alice is loving all this attention. She loves being able to shock people
Yes.
and not really being able to be criticized by these people.
I can see that.
Because, like, if the president's daughter is at my party and you take exception to that, I'm kicking you out, not the president's daughter. One thing she did was she would bring around her friend whose name was Emily Spinach.
Shut the fuck up.
And that's because Emily Spinach was her pet snake.
If I were in her shoes, I would have one of those fluffy little white dogs that came with me everywhere.
In many ways, so did Alice.
Yeah.
She had a snake, a Gartner snake, named Emily Gartner.
Gardner.
Nope. Gartner.
You're right, it is.
Gartner snake.
Sneak.
Emily, after her aunt, who was a spinstress, and Spinach, because the snake was green. She would go to parties, and she had a couple different tricks she would do.
Yeah.
So first, she would go to parties with like her purse.
Right.
And at some point, holding a cocktail in her hand, she would just kind of like let her arm fall into her purse, where Emily Spinach would then crawl up her arm. Other times, she would just show up to parties already wearing Emily Spinach. And then she said her favorite thing was to talk to men and watch them try to not notice Emily Spinach as it like freaked them out.
That's something that we would
do. 100%.
Yeah.
The fact that this woman would go around with a pet Gartner snake that was named Emily Spinach is
incredible.
So funny to me.
Did she catch it or did they buy it?
Her younger brother was on record of having bought 4 pet snakes at one point that Teddy made him return. He would die in World War I as a pilot. He was 19, it was fine. Only one that died in war. They had 5.
That's why you have lots.
Case of war.
Yeah.
Alice Roosevelt, sorry, go ahead.
Because he had like a lot of pets and stuff
Yes.
too. Like he was a nature lover at heart. So it wouldn't surprise me if she just like yoink.
I think she got it from a pet store, which probably just
Yoinked it.
yoinked it
Yeah.
from somewhere else. She famously kept 4 things in her purse: Emily Spinach,
Incredible.
a copy of the Constitution, a fertility like medallion of some kind, probably culturally insensitive. Let's go ahead and name that now.
Yeah.
And cigarettes. Because the story that
Can't
almost
be
everyone
mad.
knows about Alice
Yeah.
Roosevelt is while president, Teddy Roosevelt confronted Alice and was like, while I am president and we are living in this house, you will not smoke cigarettes in this house. Because like the press corps kept catching her smoking cigarettes.
And he said in this house.
Right, so she climbed on the roof and smoked a
there
shit
it
ton of
is.
cigarettes. She was like, and then the press corps was like, oh, look at Teddy Roosevelt, his daughter's on the roof and smoking cigarettes. And she's like, want to see my ankle, boys? Here's my snake. Teddy Roosevelt was famous for saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. One documentarian of Alice's life said she might say, speak snidely and carry a green snake. And I think that's a really great way of carrying it.
I'm obsessed.
That's the shirt line.
That's
from
the
this.
shirt where you cross out the walk softly and carry a big stick.
I also think it's funny because Teddy Roosevelt's most famous quote today, the one that like Brene Brown based a bunch of her research on, is Teddy Roosevelt says, it's about the man in the arena. Like the person whose opinion counts is the person trying to create, like not the person watching, grandstanding, or like criticizing from the sidelines.
Right.
It's the person in the battle trying to like do it. That's me butchering the quote, but that's the idea of it.
Okay.
And I think in many ways Alice was like it.
Entertained?
Yes. And much like the time, they were like, oh no, we didn't mean women when we said that. Why would you think we meant you?
Where the fuck did you get a snake?
Huge mistake, babes.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt was also famous for saying, I can run the country or I can attend to Alice, but I cannot do both.
Honestly, that's therapy for me, at least.
Well, so here's what I wrote. So I go, something we know Teddy did say of his daughter was, quote, I can run the country or I can attend to Alice, but I cannot do both. End of quote. All caps now, which has been his whole shtick this entire time. He has literally never attended to Alice. That is the whole point. Dad, please notice me. I want nothing more than to be attended to.
You had so many years to attend to me, and now you chose not only a new wife and 5 new kids, but literally a new country to take care of.
All I'm asking for is the same level of attention you give to colonies of aging European empires. That is all I want.
I want. They're going to have to blame the Maine on Alice soon.
Really?
Yeah.
Really. Okay, so this next chapter is called A Menace. There's other chapters. I'm sorry, this is like the first chapter title I've actually said. It's chaptered.
Yeah.
A Menace for the Public Good. So in 1905, Alice is now 20, and they're like, get her out. Get her out of here. She's actually, at this point, probably 21.
Okay.
So they're 4 years into her dad's presidency,
right,
or getting close to. The election of 1904 has just happened, so Teddy is in his second term, and he had publicly said he would not seek more than 2 terms. So this is his second term. This is kind of his like last lap.
Is this before they officially make the amendment that you can only have 2 terms? Okay.
So everyone's kind of like, and will he? What's that plan?
Won't he?
And he's like, nope, this is my last one.
So did he serve 2 terms after he took over for McKinley, or was it McKinley and then the one after?
Thank you for letting me talk about my special interest.
Yeah.
When you take over the term of office for someone else, they literally look at the number of days in that term of office.
Oh.
And if there's more days left than have been spent, it counts as a term. And if there's like less days, it like doesn't. At least that's
simple
how
creatures.
In Nebraska, that's how it works for the state legislature. There's a couple of state legislators who have served for 9 or 10 years because their 2-term limit didn't count because they filled the seat of someone else at first. So
my God.
So it's 1905. Teddy is like, okay, we got all these national parks going. That's great. Got all these cool colonies that I forced McKinley to get. And then
got
he
a lot
did
of places
a cool thing.
I can hunt.
Yeah, no, exactly. I have this wild child of a daughter.
Yeah.
And then I have this man who's Secretary of War, William Howard Taft. And he's going to take over for me. But he's not quite up to my chops yet. So I'm going to send William Howard Taft to Asia. And I'm probably just going to send Alice.
Yep, there it is. Yeah.
And they do. So it's 1905, and it's called the Grand Tour of Asia.
Okay.
And it's like 18 U.S. senators, like 25 U.S. House of Representatives member, Secretary of War, Alice Roosevelt. And they're going to tour all sorts of places. They're going to go to Hawaii. They're going to go to the Philippines. They're going to go to Japan. They're going to go to Korea. They're going to hit a bunch of different things.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of different political goals for this mission. For Hawaii and the Philippines, it is to flex U.S. muscle.
Yep, there it is.
The Philippines had very, very recently become a part of the United States. Like it's now a colony that we are governing. And Hawaii had just a couple years before been overthrown by the U.S. government. And both of these are pretty far away from the United States.
Yes.
California is not a big populous state in the way that it is now.
Yeah.
And these are deep into the Pacific. So it's just a quick reminder to the people that live there that you're U.S. occupied people now.
Yeah.
And then Japan and Russia are in the middle of a war called the Russo-Japanese War.
Right.
And we're going to send Howard Taft out there to try to end it. I'm not even joking. We're going to
Fucking classic.
We're going to send Howard Taft to Japan to try to bring peace to the
Japanese
Russo-Japanese
who
War.
historically really like influence from Western countries.
Well, here's actually the crazy thing. Don't get me into this.
No, don't.
I'm the only one running into it. At the time, yes, Japan did want heavy U.S. influence.
Were they open again at this point?
Yeah, because we had forced them open. And
Right.
Then
Okay.
the Meiji Restoration. It's a whole thing. Sorry. So we're going to remind these people who were occupying them. And then we're going to send Howard Taft to Japan to be like, can I help?
Apple?
And then he's going to look at Korea for a second and head back.
Okay.
And the only thing the newspaper wants to report about is Alice. So here's an actual newspaper clipping from the start of that.
Incredible. You want to see, Momo?
Feel free to read the headline and then the sub-headline and then the sub-sub-headline. You know.
San Francisco's good people pay homage to members of the Taft Party at brilliant evening affair. Stop. Society folk greet visitors at the Martin reception. Stop. Meet president's daughter. Stop. For some reason, that one's in all caps. Receives with pleasing grace honors showered on her. Stop. Affair, a grand spectacle. And then
It's really tiny.
Yeah, and then
but
it's
look at the
tiny.
picture. Is that a picture of Howard Taft or is that a picture of Alice Roosevelt
This
in
looks
the
like
center?
a bad montage, like a bad, like they just kind of stuck a bunch of pictures on top of each other.
Yeah. So Alice does her job. She draws a bunch of press attention
Right.
to this tour.
Classic.
She has to get from the East Coast to the West Coast. That alone gets covered. They're like, Alice is in Cleveland. Oh my God.
This feels
St.
like Princess
Louis.
Diana.
It is
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. They cover it nonstop. At one point on this pleasure cruise, at one point a newspaper called it, quote, a palace of the seas, because Alice Roosevelt has several rooms. Think of Rose's rooms in Titanic. It's like that kind of situation.
Think of having a palace in the sky
Yeah.
now, like some of us have
You can be jealous of my townhome. That's fine.
from the Qatari as a gift. Anyway,
Oh, we're talking about Trump right
Yeah.
now. We're talking about corruption right now. No, the U.S.
I never
taxpayer
said
is
any of that.
forking money out for this pleasure cruise. Alice at one point is like, haha, is this the pool on the boat? Oops, I fell in with all my clothes on. And they're like, Alice, you whore. Give us more.
Yeah.
And she goes, haha, but it's so lovely to swim. Would be terrible if another congressman jumped in. What about you, Congressman so-and-so? And then he jumps in as well, right?
Yeah, I absolutely would.
And so when the newspaper covers it, they're like, Alice and a congressman were seen swimming together. And they changed the name of the congressman to Nicholas Longworth.
Cage.
And they...
And he's going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
They change it to Nicholas Longworth because Nicholas Longworth is a congressman from
Okay.
Cincinnati, Ohio,
Okay.
who met Alice at a party in Washington, D.C., who is clearly dating Alice, and they might even be officially boyfriend and girlfriend. Nicholas Longworth, for the record, not the man that jumped in the pool.
Sweet.
And then they continue on to a couple other things, and then it's starting to lose attention. And so Alice Roosevelt is like, huge news, guys. You're never going to believe it. Nick proposed to me, which is huge news to the world, especially the Longworth family, where Nick had not yet proposed. Anyways, Howard Taft was able to form some really important agreements with the Japanese and set him up to win the 1908 presidential election. But let us not, like, literally, I Googled Howard Taft 1908
And it was
Asia
all Alice.
Expedition. Top article, Alice in Asia, the 1905 tour of Asia.
Incredible.
That's where I got
Iconic.
all these
Beautiful.
photos from. Okay, because here's
What
the...
a way to like get your boyfriend to propose
Just
by
announce.
announcing it.
So please appreciate this
Yes,
photo.
yeah.
Because obviously they're staged.
Yes.
Dead center is Alice. And then the
I love it.
Santa behind her is William Howard Taft.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of these things is not like the
Not
other.
like the other. And so they come back. It all happens. Oh, how great, how wonderful. 1906 comes around. Alice and Nicholas get married. It's the wedding of the century. They invite over 1,000 people
Holy.
to their wedding. She marries Nicholas Longworth, who she'd met at a DC party because he is a famous philanderer and is also 14 years older than Alice.
But she can fix him.
Alice is 21. That makes Nicholas 35. Mm-hmm. Huge wedding.
Listen, I'm not saying she has daddy issues.
What are you saying?
I don't know. I didn't say it. That's all that matters.
She wore, of course, a wedding dress made out of Alice blue.
Oh.
And then on their honeymoon,
Cute.
very quickly visited Cincinnati and the Longworth family, and then headed over to Europe, where they were able to visit many countries and many dignitaries, including the literal King of England, King Edward VII, the literal King of Germany, King Kaiser Wilhelm II,
Wow.
George Clemenceau, Whitelaw Reid, Lord Curzon, and William Jennings Bryan, a man William
my
McKinley
God.
had beaten
Yeah.
twice in the
Cross of
presidential
gold.
election. Yes, 100%.
All the stories tie back in together.
And so that wedding happens in 1906. Teddy Roosevelt's presidency ends in 1908. Howard Taft takes over in 1908. He wins the Republican nomination and then the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
4-year term, 1912 rolls around. Howard Taft is running for re-election. He is facing the Democratic candidate Woodrow Wilson.
Right.
However, some people are not happy with how Howard Taft has operated things,
Right.
specifically Daddy Teddy Roosevelt, who forms his own party, the Bull Moose Party,
Right.
and runs against Taft and largely splits the Republican vote, but also splits Alice's household. Alice obviously supports her dad.
Okay.
Nicholas Longworth supports his longtime political mentor, Howard Taft. And Alice rides around with the vice presidential candidate for her dad's political party. So her dad's political party is called the Bull Moose Party, right?
What a crazy name.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, he's this rugged outdoorsman out west. That's what you got to remember.
Well, he could also fuck a bull moose on
You're
the
right.
steps of the state capitol
So you
and
do
gain
remember
10% of the
Bush.
vote.
You do remember
No,
Bush.
I remember the story about the attempted assassination attempt of Obama.
You know, Teddy Roosevelt once took a bullet to the chest, finished his speech before he went to the White House.
And we have Trump who gets a bullet grazing his ear, and he's like, I'm almost dead.
Certain unnamed elected officials just don't get assassinated like these.
Or go to war.
And so, 1912 election comes around. Alice Roosevelt is riding around with, his name's like Hiam Johnson. It's so German
Sorry.
immigrant, like Hiam.
I thought you said
Like
he,
Chaim.
him.
No.
Like,
He, him, they, them is out here running for the progressive ticket. I'd vote for it. You know I would.
oh, yeah. I've already voted for it.
Unironically, I'd be like, Danny, you're such a
I'd-
fascist if you don't vote for the he, him, they, them political party ticket. And everyone,
I'd write them in.
everyone would be like, Grant's so right, Danny. Like, you know who we are.
Yeah,
You
I
can't be
mean-
shocked at our politics. So she's riding around with like Hiam Johnson, I'm sure is his name. And
Right.
one of the political stops they take is in her husband's, Nicholas Longworth's, congressional district in Ohio.
Okay.
Nicholas Longworth loses his re-election in 1912 by 105 votes. And when a local newspaper asks Alice what her thoughts were, she says, I think I'm worth at least 100 votes.
Oh, my
She's
God.
like, and I'd kill him again. So that obviously throws a shit ton of ice on their marriage.
Yes.
Less than a decade in. Also not helping, they're both wildly cheating on each other. Just
Yeah, well, she
rampant
literally,
infidelity.
the reason she said we're engaged is because she got into a pool with another man.
And then other people were paying attention to, like, I don't know, foreign policy or whatever.
Yeah, and
Okay,
then she was like,
honey,
hi.
if you want to cover my wedding, you'll be nice to me on this trip,
Yeah.
kind of stuff, as is
Yeah.
her right. So the marriage doesn't go well. Kind of turns cold to ice. However, 1914, Nicholas Longworth wins his old seat back. Him and Alice stay married until his death,
Wow.
which is really good.
I did not expect that from Alice.
Well, so
She's going to have a second
I
wife-
mean, but like
husband.
the family that she comes from and whatever, right? Like it's all,
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is. They will be married until 1930. Nicholas Longworth will continue to climb up the like ladder in the House of Representatives.
Okay.
He will become the Speaker of the House, which
Ooh.
is the third most powerful position in the American government. Watch the Great Depression happen in 1929 and then die.
Sweet.
Sorry.
I mean, he was like, it's been a good run.
Like Nicholas Longworth, this is the last thing you're going to really hear from him. Nicholas Longworth wins his old seat back in 1914, climbs up the ladder, becomes a leader of the House in like the late 1920s, becomes Speaker of the House. Great Depression happens, like stock market crash.
Yes.
He wins re-election in 1930. And when he wins re-election, all the results are tallied and he is presumed to be the next Speaker of the House in November of 1930. But the House isn't going to get together until December of 1931 in 13 months.
Ooh.
And in those 13 months, 15 Congress people are going to die.
Oh my God.
And-
That's so many.
And they're going to hold a lot of special elections.
Yeah.
And Democrats are going to win just enough of those special elections that when the Congress actually convenes, it'll be a Democrats in charge of the
who
House.
gets the
I think
seat.
that's great.
I'm
Alice and
obsessed.
Nick have one daughter. The daughter's name is Paulina. But
Oh no.
so like Paulina is born in 1925. Like
Oh,
a
that math doesn't math.
Right. Like a decade after they stop really kind of loving each other.
Yeah.
But right around the time that Alice deeply loved the senator from Idaho, whose name was, Let me find it in my notes. I've just been kind of vamping.
I know, and I like it. I'm vibing.
Senator William Bora. Bora.
Sounds like he would be a Bora.
She when Paulina was born, Alice wanted something, and Nicholas wasn't letting her have it. And she goes, I will name this child Deborah if you do not give me what I want, which of course breaks down to De Bora or of Bora. And Nick was like, fine, you can have what you want. And so daughter was named Paulina Longworth.
Okay.
Only claimed child of Nicholas Longworth, who is definitely not his biological child.
Right.
And Paulina, the child's nickname, of course, was Aurora Borealis.
Shut the fuck
Which is
up.
so clever.
Is it?
Yeah, because all of her friends came up with it.
Have I told you the story of like my friend who had a friend or the family's name,
Okay.
last name was Lear.
Okay.
They named their daughter Diamond.
Diamond Lear?
They gave her the middle name Shanda.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. That's really mean.
I know.
We have a lot of kids coming through now with like names that like sound like they're from like Song of Achilles. Like it's very like Greek. And that's great. I love that.
I mean, I like seeing the new names. Honestly, I'm just a big fan of like old man, old woman names making a comeback. I think that's great.
So we're now at like the last chapter after the White House. Alice Roosevelt really kind of sets her reputation in the White House. And then after the White House is done, she's like still interesting.
She's no longer constantly being watched.
Right. Well, she's no longer constantly being watched. She's no longer an instrument of the administration.
Right.
Like she's
So
now just...
They can now crack down on her.
Right.
Yeah.
She is now forced to live the life that she was going to live if her dad didn't become president. And that's the complicated thing too. All the trauma that she experienced at the hands of her dad's political ambition ultimately gave her the platform that she is known for. And then after the White House, lived a different reality than what she would have otherwise.
Right.
One that she liked.
Yeah.
She's
that's
like
tough.
24 or 25 in 1908 when they have to move out.
That's wild.
She knits a doll of William Howard Taft's wife, a.k.a. the new First Lady.
Oh, I'm nervous.
Names it a voodoo doll.
Yep.
Fills it full of pins. Plants it in the White House lawn on
All
the day
kinds
they
of
move out.
cultural appropriation and also just like questionable morals happening.
Well, the Taft family finds it a couple months later. And then Alice is like, yeah, it was me. Correct. You got that right. Did you get the note that said from Alice? And they were like, okay, so no offense, Alice, but you're not allowed at the White House while
This
we're
is literally a threat. Like, you know that, right?
The Taft family was the first family to ban Alice from the White House.
Oh,
they were not the last
last.
family to ban
Okay.
Alice from the White House.
That's the goal in life. The more White Houses you can get banned from.
100%.
Yeah.
I said years ago that if you're not doing something every day to upset Tucker Carlson, you're not living your life.
And
then
now that list has expanded.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also posted that video on YouTube where a bunch of people were like, look at you, like you wish you were Tucker Carlson.
I remember that.
And
Yeah.
I think we're deep enough into the episode that I'm going to say this. I don't think Tucker Carlson cares if those commenters live or die. If it gives
True.
him, if your death gives him equity in his death company, I think he'd actually prefer you to die. But you keep riding it hard for Tucker Carlson. You let me know how it works out for you.
I loved that was my favorite pastime when that was happening, responding
God.
to those YouTube comments, especially because those ones were unhinged. And they were like, I bet you're gay. And I was like,
Yeah. Correct. I think I don't know if I
good
told you
read.
this. I fucking shattered a child's world the other day.
oh no.
I was like telling a story to a different kid. I was like, well, you know, like I'm a pretty big guy, so I blah, blah, blah. And like I get cut off mid-sentence as this kid goes, don't call yourself a big guy.
Aw.
And I go, I am a big guy. And I kind of like that I'm a big guy. I don't feel weird about being a big guy. Like I'm bigger than almost all of you. I'm a big guy. Like there's no shame around
Yeah.
that. And they were like, yep.
That kid was realizing all of their internalized
Body
fat
dysmorphia.
phobia and body dysphoria.
Instantly. I'm sorry. I'm like loud, bald, gay, fat, fine with all of it.
There's the only time to say like, oh, like
That's
don't
going to
say
be an
that.
Instagram reel.
Yeah.
I know that's going to be an Instagram.
Real people, please don't.
Go ahead.
That's a lot of mixed signals right now. The only time to say that is when it's like genuinely self-deprecating.
Right.
And it's clearly not with you,
No.
like 99% of the time.
Well, especially when like the setup of the story is like, I'm a big guy, comma. So if I stand in the doorway, no one can get past me, right? Like that's an observable fact, babes.
Or like, I'm a big guy and I scare Trader Joe's employees.
Right, exactly. If I said things like, I'm a big guy and that's why no one's ever going to love me, that's when you kind of go,
you're like, ooh,
hey, that seems...
that's a crazy thing you just said.
Right. Exactly.
A lot of people are going to have a lot of opinions about what you just said.
Just enough wine in me right now.
I think it's literally on that graphic somewhere.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I need the space to tell my story. So I need to like reference that chart sometime.
I think we need an updated one every year.
Okay. So Taft administration was like, oh, like don't come, like that's not cool. And then of course Taft administration loses in 1912. Her dad doesn't win either though. Woodrow Wilson becomes president, first Democratic president in like 30 years. He keeps America out of World War I. Yeah. Well, he was a huge racist.
I'm gonna stop talking about people from the past.
Every time you say something, I'm like, I don't know if I'd say that.
I'm like, cool. And you definitely know a lot more than me. So I can never run for president now.
Like Woodrow Wilson kept America out of World War I until the last possible second.
Yeah, which is also problematic.
Well, actually, that's kind of good because it meant American soldiers didn't die in the trenches and waited until Germany kind of naturally...
I guess it's problematic that we now reference it as we won that war.
Right. Well, it's also problematic because he showed Birth of a Nation, which depicted the South Carolina State House, which had a majority of black representatives, specifically with monkeys, and then justified this resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan as a way of defending white female virginity. And he, a man who used to be president of Princeton, viewed that as a documentary and made it viewable for free at the White House several times.
No.
So he wasn't a good guy, but he also had some really cool ideas about a liberal world order around like eliminating war entirely.
It's great to have ideals. And people are really bad at following through.
So like this, so you look at the election of 1912 and you're like, who are you rooting for here? You have Woodrow Wilson, all the things I just said.
Yeah.
You have Teddy Roosevelt, who viewed American colonialism as way better than European colonialism, but believed in his heart that these non-white nations needed a white nation to guide and father them. And that was considered racially progressive at the time.
Oh,
so you're like,
my God.
How do you judge that? And then you have William Taft.
End of sentence.
Honestly, the William Taft story is so great because you know how the William Taft story ends? William Taft serves one term as president, loses re-election in 1912, kind of like disappears into history a little bit. Like he was a super accomplished guy who was then essentially backstabbed by his like best friend, Teddy Roosevelt, and like then kind of loses an election in shame and is ostracized from the Republican Party. But then it's kind of like his reputation is mended. And he ends up as a Supreme Court justice and like ends his time as the only U.S. president to become a Supreme Court justice.
That's a crazy turn of events.
Yeah, and kind of sets like a couple of like legal precedents. Kind of like ends up like how he got his groove back. And I think that was his favorite job. Also, he wasn't as fat as people think he was.
I don't know. I did see the picture. Because isn't the story
he wasn't tiny.
He got stuck in a bathtub?
Yeah, he never got stuck in a bathtub. He had a really big bathtub installed in the White House.
Right.
And then everyone was like, oh, because you're going to get stuck, fatty. And that's like...
And he was like, I just like baths.
Right. If you've ever been in a hot tub, you understand William's ideas. I'm sorry. I just like... The deeper into the story we get, the more wine I drink. I promise you this was a short story. I don't know how it's 9:50. I legitimately don't know how that happened.
That clock is an hour behind, so I'm actually increasingly less anxious about the time.
Good. Okay.
I haven't actually changed it because it always usually chills me out a little bit.
I think we're like literally like maybe 15 minutes or less away.
Okay. I'll believe it when I see it.
So she leaves the White House. She keeps being a socialite. Obviously, she's wealthy because she's a Roosevelt. And then the Depression happens, which her husband, Speaker of the House, kind of oversaw. But like, now he died. And so in the 1930s, she publishes an autobiography titled A Crowded Room, which is exactly what I want to title my autobiography. Like, such a great title.
That's
Sells really well. That helps support her for a little bit. And then she kind of morphs into elder statesman. And it happens around the time her arch rival, Eleanor Roosevelt, is becoming like an actual statesman. Like Eleanor Roosevelt.
Doesn't she do like a lot of cool things? I think she's on my list or was at some point.
Eleanor Roosevelt becomes the first woman to be ambassador to the United Nations for the United States. But Eleanor Roosevelt also becomes the U.S.'s first ambassador to the United Nations. Like, the second person we appointed to that position, the person that came after Eleanor, was the first man to hold that job. Like, she is a trailblazer. She was an advocate for women and children.
Yeah.
She was an advocate for countries that had been neglected by like economic development or worse, torn apart from colonialism. Her arch rival and cousin Eleanor is becoming an actual statesman with like political power. Alice Roosevelt kind of wields political power by being really funny but really mean. And I have some of her greatest hits.
Listener, side eye, please. Please get on the video.
I have no reason why I picked this one.
I've seen him interact with his children.
In 1940, her distant cousin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is running for his third term.
Right.
So there's a Republican running against FDR, right? Her distant cousin and columnist, Joseph Wright Alsop V, is writing an article, and he's like, this Republican's going to win. This Republican has grassroots support. And Alice Roosevelt goes, yes, the grass of 10,000 country clubs.
That's good.
I know it is. In 1944, another person is running against her cousin, this time Governor Dewey. She goes, Governor Dewey looks like the tiny man you put on top of wedding cakes. And it sticks with him, and it's how he's described forever. And he loses back-to-back presidential elections because of it.
I'm obsessed.
She once called one of her opponents, quote, funny looking, like he was nursed as a baby off a pickle.
What?
She kind of becomes the queen of mean. At a party in Washington, D.C. in the 1950s, Senator Joseph McCarthy from Wisconsin, who was a real fucking shit kicker and not in the good way. Super anti-communist, which, okay, but like that meant he just targeted like artists and gay people and women. And he was like, get out of government and like, let's not have any unions. And Joseph McCarthy was really controversial even at the time.
Right.
Now his reputation is like universally bad. And at a party, he goes, oh, hey, Alice, how's it going? And Alice says this in response to Joseph McCarthy. She goes, on my street, the trash man, the doorman, and the policeman can call me Alice. You may not call me Alice.
I love that she's now taken the power back of her name. Like, it's giving LGBTQ people using queer.
Yes.
It's giving like,
it's giving like, I'm the queen of mean. She has a daughter, and Paulina, and then her daughter gives birth to her granddaughter. Granddaughter's name is Joanna.
Joanna. I feel you.
And remember, Alice had Paulina, her daughter, in the mid-1920s from absolutely an extramarital affair.
Right.
Was still chasing the spotlight, kind of dragged Paulina into it, but never gave Paulina a chance to develop her own identity, much like Alice's father did.
Shocking how that generational trauma works.
Yeah. Trigger warning now for mentions of drug use and consequences. Give you a second.
I know that you meant consequences of drug use, but I just heard that as just consequences.
And just general consequences. So Paulina's husband will die first, and then within a year, she will die of an overdose of, quote, sleeping pills.
Oh, yeah, that's...
And Alice will become mother to Joanna, her granddaughter.
Okay.
And will raise her, and Joanna has a much more private life, but Alice really steps into it. She's like,
did Alice do a better job of mothering?
Much better job of mothering second time around to her granddaughter Joanna. In 1969, Alice is still alive, born in 1884.
Oh my God.
In 1969, Joanna was described as, quote, a highly attractive and intellectual 22-year-old, and was called a notable contributor to Mrs. Longworth's, because remember, she didn't ever go by Alice, to Mrs. Longworth's youthfulness. The bonds between them are twin cables of devotion and a healthy respect for each other's tongue. In other words, they can rip each other to shreds.
Yeah.
Mrs. L, says a friend, has been a wonderful father and mother to Joanna. Mostly father.
Listen, I didn't say she has daddy issues.
Yeah. No, you never said that.
I never said that.
So Alice spends the rest of her life living in Washington, D.C. She's still super connected. So she invites people. She's one of the few socialites in Washington, D.C. that has the ability to nag a president. And she does that. If she doesn't think you, if she thinks you're uncouth, if she thinks you're boring, if she thinks you're boorish or bearish, you're not invited to her parties. She fucking loved Richard Nixon. She thought Richard Nixon was fucking dope as hell.
Jesus Christ.
1960.
I am not a crook. And a crook I will never be. I hate crooks.
In 1960, Richard Nixon is leaving the White House because he was vice president for Dwight D. Eisenhower. Right. He's heading back to California. And Alice Roosevelt is literally like, stay in touch. And then in 1967, she's like, now's your time, run for president. And he does. And he's invited all the time. And that's great. And she stands by him till the very end. He's like getting on the plane after resigning. And she's like, he's innocent. And then she was like, fine with Gerald Ford, who came out afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, I think he got invited to like one dinner and then did not find Jimmy Carter like interesting or like cool enough to like invite to. But also like,
I can get that.
Jimmy Carter was a peanut farmer. She was a fucking Roosevelt, right?
Yeah. It's
Alice Roosevelt died in February of 1980. Close to her 96th. I think she had just turned 96 years old. She fortunately did not have to live to see Ronald Reagan become president.
Grant's like, I too wish I could have lived before Ronald Reagan was president.
This is what the Carter administration, who was never invited to her dinners, had to say. Quote, she had style, she had grace, and she had a sense of humor that kept generations of political newcomers to Washington wondering which was worse, to be skewered by her wit or ignored by her.
Incredible. I wish I had that amount of social power. I wish people paid attention to who I did and didn't talk to.
Well, here's what you got to remember. Right now, this era of your life, you're voodoo doll of Howard Taft's wife era for Alice Roosevelt.
I need to get into voodoo dolls.
Yeah, 100%.
I need to get down to Louisiana
or
and
find
learn
some culturally appropriate way to do it.
the culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll become a witch. I can do that.
I mean, you're a decade away still from a daughter out of wedlock.
I can't do that.
There was some
you all heard my
though.
horror story about the IUD. It's no good for 8 years, and you can bet your ass I'm not going through that again.
Put it in your arm. I could have cut it out like in the second Hunger Games movie.
No, because then I would have to like feel it. No.
I'm so into the Hunger Games. Okay, so make sure I got everything here at the very end. Okay, 2 things. First, in a 1969 article with Heritage American magazine, it was said about her polio experience as a child.
Yeah.
Quote, the muscular strength in her legs today is extraordinary. As a child, she had to wear braces on them because of what is now assumed to have been polio.
Yeah.
Today, she can, and does, sink to the floor and assume the lotus position, which is a seated, cross-legged position with each foot on top of the opposite knee. She can hold this pose for hours. She also expressed admiration for her stepmother's sense of humor and stated that they had the same literary taste. It always came back to books for Alice.
Okay. So
in her autobiography, Crowded Hours, not Crowded Room, Crowded Hours, Alice wrote that her stepmother, Edith Caro, quote, that I was the child of another marriage was a simple fact and made a situation that had to be coped with. And mother coped with it with a fairness and a charm and an intelligence which she has to a greater degree than almost anyone else I have ever known.
So they mended their relationship.
I think so. Like, or she grew up and appreciated the position.
Which happens so often with kids.
The very last thing I'll say, I caught it in at least one podcast I listened to about Alice Roosevelt. And then struggled to verify independently, but there was like whispers of it.
I've kind of stopped taking notes off of podcasts and just kind of listening to them for other facts, because knowing that we are also a podcast, and the idea of someone using us as a factual source. I mean, like, go for it. A couple of you have mentioned, this is the reason we post all of our sources, because I have anxiety. But I've also like definitely seen a few podcasts that have misrepresented facts, especially true crime podcasts. So I stopped taking notes on them, but I do still listen to them.
And it just kind of feels good, I think, for us in a relationship with the listener to be like, everything I've presented up to you so far, I'm able to cross-check across a couple different things.
Exactly.
Seems to be really interesting. And the artistry that I've done is the way I've decided to like orchestrate it and form it for you.
Yeah.
Now comes the part where it's like, hey, I wasn't able to verify this, which doesn't mean it's not true. I just don't want you to feel like it's in the same
That's why I always say it's
league.
like one source said, or a couple sources say, you know, and so that they're like, well, how many?
So one source said in the early 1970s, which would have fit into her life. She died in 1980. In the early 1970s, she marched in one of America's first gay liberation marches.
Hell yeah.
Yes, which would have fit in with her work around feminist activism at the time. I wasn't able to find an article about that specifically, but I don't know how, if, why it would have been covered, or how journalism was covering gay pride events at that time.
Yeah, it might have not been something that was
there
publicly available.
was some evidence, again kind of loose, but some evidence that in 1905, as daughter of the president of the United States, she used her political influence to help out a friend who had been arrested in a gay bathhouse raid, which is this person was arrested because of potentially conducting sexual acts in a private or semi-private place with a person of the same gender, which was a huge crime at the time. And she used her influence potentially to help get that person out. And that would have happened when she was younger. And there is more reason as to why there'd be less historical documentation around that. I could not find anything that was outwardly negative about the queer community when I was like researching her.
Yeah.
And in an interview in like 1974, Alice Roosevelt identified as a hedonist. So
I don't think she was really caring about social norms.
She
around
actually,
now.
This was a great quote from, again, the podcast. I didn't chase down this quote specifically because I couldn't find the gay fact. So again, take this quote with a grain of salt. It was wrapped up in this package for the podcast, but it was, she once said, as long as it's in private and it doesn't startle the horses, what happens between two consenting adults is fine.
I kind of watch Startle the Horses, but like,
or like some, I mean, who hasn't thought of like the stable boy, you know? I just don't think of the smell.
Oh, that doesn't bother me at all.
Oh, here's the thing. Bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
Ren Fair really changed my perception on that fantasy.
I forgot how much.
I don't like snacks with dust on them.
I can smell where the jousting is going to happen. Let me follow my nose.
And I'm like, I don't want to be dirty. I don't want to be dirty.
You were like, we have to sit in the grass?
I can be muddy, but I don't want to be dirty. You know?
I don't want to be muddy.
Yeah, no, that's the difference.
You want to come to work for me?
No.
Please.
I'm on summer break now. That's so fucked up.
I know, which means that you could just hang out in my construction trailer after we get some certifications for you, of course. I'm
Level
OSHA
2
10
accreditation.
certified. No, it's actually a 10-hour OSHA course, so it is actually around the same amount of training hours to be accredited in all of the different speech and debate courses.
Feels like a lot. Any thoughts on title for the episode?
Oh, I took a bunch of notes.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Crowded hours.
Ooh,
Number
nice.
one. Staying in the spotlight or chasing the spotlight. Sit next to me.
Oh.
Queen of Mean. Daddy Issues. An American Princess.
Okay, I like American Princess. I like Sit Next to Me, and I like Crowded Hours.
I think Crowded Hours is best SEO wise.
Yes.
Do you think that represents the episode though?
100%.
Okay.
Like her life was busy.
Yeah.
And so was her dad's. And
Crowded
also
Hours.
it helps drive people to her autobiography, which I'm sure is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it's interesting.
Didn't have the time to read it.
No, God no.
I'm into fiction right now. So
Oh yeah, obvious. As is your right.
It's going really well. I have like my work audiobook and then my like personal life personal book, you know. You get it. I know
I've decided to
you
start
get it.
doing nonfiction over audiobook because that's easier for me to
Yes.
consume.
Feels like a podcast.
It feels like a podcast.
Yeah.
And Aileen just told me about a podcast hosted by the old host of Normal Gossip, which
Ooh, fun.
like so many of our listeners listen to. Like it was an overwhelming majority of our listeners that also listen to Normal Gossip. I can't remember her name for the life of me. If it's like shown to me, I would know. But she wrote a book on gossip. And like it was basically
cool.
my like I think I haven't listened to it yet, but like the science part of the Dearest Reader episode.
Nice.
So we're gonna do that.
I love it. Well, if you enjoyed this, you can find us on social media, see some of the reels that we talked about, where we are Well I Laughed.
Yes.
You can find additional content on Patreon, where we
Yeah.
are Well I Laughed podcast.
Support the pod.
Right. If you would like to write in with a listener story and hear your story shared on the podcast, our next two themes for listener stories are famous feuds and
They were
they were
roommates.
roommates. And you can send those to our email, wellilaughdpod@gmail.com, or you can submit them via our website, wellilaughed.com.
And we are like, I mean, not like really in need of support, but like, I mean, support your local artists, right? And if you can't donate to Patreon, totally fine. Like, totally understand that. But if you would be willing to rate us on whatever platform you're listening on Spotify, it's really easy. You literally just like click a button, right? And then on Apple, you don't need to write anything. Just leave us a review. It does actually help, and share the podcast with people.
And lastly, if you have
Yes.
something coming up that you would like us to celebrate, request us on Cameo. I realized the other day we are using our Cameo as a chance and opportunity for you to threaten others, but it's also an opportunity to celebrate you. So
Yeah, we've
fun
done a
new
couple
fields.
for at least one listener
Yes.
as a pep talk for her
I
triathlon.
really love that one. That
For
was fun.
training for the triathlon and then doing the triathlon,
Right.
which if you're out there, you still owe us a picture.
Wait, I want to know how it went.
Yeah, but whatever. But yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, friends, I hope you live your life as dangerously as Alice did. Get a pet snake, smoke cigarettes, and have thoughts on driving.
And if you don't have anything nice to say, you can sit right here.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Okay.
this has been a crowded hour.
Hey,
Bye.
bye.
Nice. That was good.